and gentlemen, girls and boys, to today's stream where we're going to do just an open live Q&A format for anything fitness related. This is more specific to men, but I know that I do have some female viewers too. So if there is anyone that wants to get up here on stage, ask any questions live, well, you can go ahead and do that. The link is pinned to the top of the chat, or if you want to remain anonymous, that's completely fine too. You can go ahead and just punch your questions into the chat. So I have up here today my Lost Boys co-host, Steve Barker, and then a member of my Top 10% community, Lee. So how are you gentlemen doing today?
Fantastic, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, dude, I'm killing it. Absolutely. Let's roll. I love this topic. I love this topic.
I know, me too. Yeah, these are kind of slow to get going, but once the chat starts lighting up, guys, leave it on in the chat. Then we'll get to you. And then also be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Ring the notification bell and enable notifications to this channel. Otherwise, you will not be having my content recommended to you per something YouTube's doing goofy on their end. And then be sure to share with your friends if you get any value out of this. And it looks like we have someone else backstage too. So good. We'll start off with a full panel. How's it going, Jake?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well. All right, guys. So fitness topics. I don't really have a set format. It's open Q&A. So who wants to kick it off? Got any questions or comments, or want to share?
Start with a guest. I think starting with the guest would be a good idea.
All right, Lee, you're here first, so I can.
Yeah. Thank you, Jaron. I wanted to ask you, what is your you just said you did some cardio today. What is your routine like on a weekly basis? What would you describe that as?
I was joking about the cardio. I was getting laid.
Oh, okay.
It is cardio. That does count.
Naturally. Okay, good.
It technically is cardio. Yeah, I usually feel pretty lean and tight and nice afterwards. We can just say that. So my routine, it's kind of in flux right now. It's varying a bit. So I'm getting into the tail stages of a cut. I probably have 1 or 2 kilos left to where I have like abs popping and veins all over and whatnot. So I'm doing less frequency with weights, but I'm doing double workouts, and I do some more advanced stuff. So I do like targeted cyclical keto. I do restricted eating. So I've been intermittent fasting for years and years. So I think what I'm going to do, and what I've been kind of naturally doing the last couple of weeks, is on the days I lift, I do doubles in the gym. I eat at maintenance or maybe even a slight surplus. And then on the days where I don't lift, I do what I call like a fat flush, which is protein only. And then that ends up being like 900 to 1,000 calories, which puts me in a crazy deficit. So that really helps kind of squeeze off those last few pounds that like to hang on. I used to be obese, so I've got the flanks and I've got some loose skin around the abdomen. So doing that, like the restricted meal timing, kind of tightens everything up for me. There is some water manipulation type stuff I have to do. So if someone were to call me and say, hey, next weekend, do you want to do a photo shoot or something, then I have to start playing with the water, do like a peak week like a professional bodybuilder does. But at this point, I've been going to the gym every other day, eating more carbs and calories on the days I lift. I'm doing doubles. So at the end of the week, I'm still getting in all the volume I need weights-wise. That's what I recommend guys do too, especially on your diet. Like at the end of the week, I'll come in a caloric deficit where I need to be. But that doesn't mean I have to eat consistently every single day or train consistently every single day. And I've played around with my body for like 20 years now since I lost all the weight in high school. And I'm always trying new things and I get a little more efficient going at it. So this time around, my mood's been kind of off. So I was thinking earlier today, I might start going to the gym daily and just do normal workouts again, and then kind of start easing my way into maintenance as I knock off these last couple of pounds. But that's currently what my routine looks like. And then I'm doing just a bro split, but I have them stacked to where I'm hitting the same muscle groups each day in a row to kind of put like a little more stress on it. When I do get leaner, I don't lift as heavy or hard. I go for more time under tension, kind of more athletic training, get your heart rate up, do like a circuit or cyclical type thing. Although I don't do like the actual rotation in the circuit. I'd rather just get on something and then just knock it out real quick. And I go more for volume, and then more of that pump and more of the cardiovascular benefits too that you get from not taking 2 to 3 minute rests in between sets. I'm more like 15-30 seconds in between sets. But again, the weight is way down because when you get leaner, your strength kind of tapers off a little bit too, which I don't mind. I'm naturally big, so I want to get on the leaner and even smaller side, which I know it sounds crazy for some of the guys out there that are trying to put on muscle mass. I have a lot of guys reach out to me at that, but I've always been bigger, and I want to be able to dress nicer and fit nice clothes and have more kind of like an athletic shape to me. So those are my goals right now. How about you? What are your current goals? Where are you at? I know you've been posting progress pictures quite frequently in the private group there.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because of the reflection or not, but can you guys see that?
Yeah, you can always tell in the face when you start losing weight.
Man, that was at my heaviest. I was at 232 pounds, and I'm at right now 189.
Wow.
I gained
nice.
2 pounds in Chicago this past weekend, eating all the deep dish pizza that I wanted.
Hell yeah.
Oh God! Today's
So
a
good.
carb-free day for
I
me to
love
be
that.
talking about pizza. Actually, I can do an almond crust or almond flour crust. But I'll do pizza.
Yeah, I lift 5 days a week, just about 4 to 5 days a week, depending on my schedule. But and a typical day for me at the gym is to do 2 muscle groups. Like for example, yesterday I did back and biceps. The day before I did chest and triceps. Today I did legs. And then I'll do cardio afterwards. 30 minutes of cardio on the elliptical. That's what I've been doing, and I've also been following Weight Watchers. And I tell you what, that has been, for me at least, a total freaking game changer, man.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they count the points, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. It's not calorie counting; it's point counting. There's a bunch of 0 point foods, like for example, eggs are 0 points. Yeah, so I ate 4 eggs for breakfast this morning. Boneless, skinless chicken breast, 0 points. So you can eat theoretically as much as that as you can, stuff down your throat. Now, within reason, right? So
yeah,
that's why it's like a bodybuilder diet.
Yeah,
it's they're clean protein sources. Yeah,
I don't even track it anymore because it taught me how to eat. I use the app still because it's got a barcode scanner. I don't work for Weight Watchers, by the way. Disclaimer: I just really like it, so.
You should. Weight Watchers are looking for sponsors.
I've never actually heard of anybody who did Weight Watchers like personally. Obviously you've seen commercials and shit and people talking about it, and there's a bunch of people.
It was big in the 90s. I think I remember my mom doing it once and my aunts, but my family's fairly fit. Well, my aunt's not so much, but my mom's always been fit. So I think she did it for like a week or two. And she's like, yeah, I can just do it on my own. But one thing you mentioned, Lee, which is really good, no matter what plan you follow, I always recommend guys like get on a plan, stick to it, track it, see how it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, try it. And I've tried all sorts of different diets and eating protocols and weight lift routines and whatnot. And eventually you kind of figure out what works for you. And it sounds like you just said it, that after a while, you don't really have to track it anymore. You just kind of know, you know what your diet looks like, what it feels like. And then I go on the feels a lot too. There's times like, hey, like I feel like I need more protein. And there's other days where I'm just not hungry at all. So I just don't eat those days.
It's really interesting because I kind of follow more of a less regimented type of routine. Walk 15,000 steps a day, a lot of calisthenics, push-ups, air squats, stuff like that. Mostly carnivore diet. I'm kind of on like a 6-1 carnivore diet, but when I do it, those 6 days a week, I'm 1 meal a day, and now I have to force myself to eat. So it's like maybe 2 pounds of ground beef or whatever, and 6 eggs, and it's kind of hits me like 2,300 calories or whatever. But as far as like going outside, I just spend a shitload of time. I do everything that I can to spend as much time outside as possible, because when I'm outside, I'm burning calories. It doesn't really matter. And getting the vitamin D, all the benefits of just being in the sun in general as a dude, testosterone wise and stuff like that, also helps your what do you call your base basal metabolic
BMR,
rate? Yeah, your BMR. So I kind of just take that. Like I don't go like scientific like Jaron does, where I dial it down to like water and all that. I just whenever I'm hungry, I eat, and then one day a week if I want gummy bears, I'll eat fucking gummy bears. But that's
I've got some gummy bears. I bought some.
Dude, I just smashed a whole package of those fucking things
for one of the girls. She was over this weekend too, and I forgot to give them to her because I'm not gonna eat that shit.
Yeah, well, I eat it every once in a while. It's like I'm so disciplined on the other however 26 days a month that the 500 calories of gummy bears really don't make any difference to me. It doesn't even touch what I weighed, because I just came down from 285 pounds 6 months ago, and I'm 229 today. And
that hell yeah, you broke that 230 milestone.
Yeah, this was you showed a picture, so I figured I would stick. That was my face.
There,
Yeah, you
man,
notice
wow.
how the
Yeah.
faces look rounder when you're bigger,
Yeah.
and then I've got a long face, so yeah, they look kind of like
I don't
more
have the
like
same goofy
like a
fucking
pie
facial
shape
hair,
or a
but
pie slice shape, and you're done.
yeah. But yeah, I came down about 60 pounds, and ever since I think I dropped since I dropped like 237, 238, I just kind of not really that hungry. I don't require that as many calories or whatever, so I just kind of just naturally fell into the OMAD thing. I mean, it just kind of worked out for me that way. And I kind of work out during the day. I do like sets of 25 push-ups, and I'll do like 5 to 10 sets of 25 push-ups throughout the day. So I'm getting more volume in push-up wise rather than doing like 50 and then quitting. And it just kind of it works for me. Going to the gym, like I'll go to the gym, but it's more of like trying to. I've just been trying to incorporate whatever into my life, my daily life, without having to necessarily need a gym. Because what if you're traveling, and you don't have a gym, or you're out in the middle of nowhere or something like that? Like if you have the habit of doing the push-ups or the sprints or the air squats or whatever, you're just going to do them regardless of where you're at. So it's kind of my
That,
thought.
that's why I'm playing around with going to the gym with less frequency, but still getting in all the volume I need to hit my goals on a weekly basis. And
Right.
we'll see how that goes. I might get tired of it, and I actually enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy the process of getting ready, walking, getting there, seeing my friends, hanging out. Although I don't really hang out, I get in there, get work done, and get the hell out of there. And then that walk home is what I really look forward to. So I'm thinking like maybe gym 3-4 days a week, and then like a yoga day, and like low intensity, steady state cardio for a longer session or whatever. I'm still trying to kind of figure that out. Jake, go ahead and introduce yourself, and what can we help you with? Questions, commentary, or feel free to fire away.
So my name is Jake. I'm a certified personal trainer, and I've been in the 10% community for about a year now. And question for you, Jaron. So when you went down to 9%, I'm just curious, would you recommend doing that? Like, how was it? What did you do exactly?
Yeah, it entirely depends on what your goals are. So I only get down to single digits when I have like a destination wedding, some sort of destination event, any sort of beach stuff. So if I'm going to like LA, Miami, Cancun, Colombia, and especially if there's going to be photographers there, then I'll get down that lean. Usually on my maintenance weight, I like to stay at least 2 or 3 weeks out from doing that. Most of the year, usually between April 1st and October 1st, which is funny where I grew up, that's the irrigation water schedule. So April 1st to October 1st, means you're going to be outside. So usually just by virtue of that, I have a much more active lifestyle. So I hover around like the 10 to 12% body fat range. I'd say off season, probably 13 to 15% body fat range. I don't like doing bulk cut cycles anymore. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So I stopped doing those, and I try to be at the point where, like I said, 2 to 3 weeks out. That depends how aggressive I want to get. Usually I don't like losing, like on the real aggressive side, more than like a kilo a week, maybe 2-3 pounds max a week. But normally I do like a pound and a half a week if I have runway coming out of the new year, which is usually what I do. Usually I'll splurge a bit from Thanksgiving to Christmas, and then come New Year, between New Year and April 1st, then I'll get lean. I'll just get gradually leaner. I'd say it depends. I'm naturally a bigger guy, so it takes a lot more effort for me to get that lean and stay that lean than it would a guy who's naturally leaner and has to eat all the damn time just to put any weight on the scale or on the bench press or squat rack or deadlift bar, whatever, what have you. So I think that really depends. I was mentioned to the guys in the pre-show that I'm getting to the point where my mood's been kind of off. So I don't know, like maybe if I'm in too much of a caloric restriction, maybe I need to eat in even more of a slight surplus on my training days. I typically, I can do pretty steep deficits, caloric deficits, but I do fall into the habit, and a lot of guys' physiques are like this, where your metabolism down regulates. So it becomes accustomed to eating those low calories, and it just kind of throws off your energy and your mood a bit. So I think I remember in years past when I've gotten closer to single digit body fat that I do not necessarily a cheat day, more like a refeed day. I find the leaner I get, the less crappy food I want to eat, but refeed in the sense that I need to get some calories in me just to up-regulate my metabolism. So I'm thinking this week maybe I'll do that. I'll stay in a steep deficit till the end of the week, and then maybe on Saturday or Sunday go out and have like a nice big meal, and then maybe midweek Wednesday do a nice big meal. And I've got pictures all over my Instagram. I've tried, like my eating and diet and training protocol looks roughly the same as it has over the last few years since I got my first 6-pack. But there are little tweaks I make here and there based on whatever my lifestyle looks at at that time. So I'm considering building in another refeed day. And I think I recall in years past having done that because like I'll start looking small and my strength will go down in the gym. And then once your body fat gets to a certain point, once you do those carb refeeds, then it's nice because your muscles kind of suck up all that water and you get that nice like 3D effect. Whereas now I'm kind of deflated and I've got a couple pounds left on me that I want to get off, and then I'll start refueling or refeeding the muscles, if that makes sense. But you're a personal trainer. I'm sure it definitely makes sense to you.
So would you say 9% is more for look as opposed to what you ideally want to be at?
I'd say so. And I think it's been years since I looked at the studies, so you might know better than me on this. But I believe when you look at body fat ranges, I believe they put like athletic body fat between like 12 to 15%. When you do get lower, your performance starts to suffer. Like you gas out a bit more at the gym. You don't have that explosive strength or energy. But I also find the leaner I get, the easier it is to maintain it too. Like I don't have to work out super hard and intense every single day. As long as I don't lose the muscle mass, which I was a fat kid growing up. Like my body is built to hold mass. So I don't really have that problem. I think I've shared in the top 10% group. If you guys go through some of the older posts, like DEXA scan results, in like a cut cycle, maybe I'll lose like a pound and a half of muscle, which I could always go into like a lean bulk protocol and put that right back on in a week or two. So for me, that's kind of negligible. But again, that's really knowing how your body works and your body type. I lost all my weight when I was 17 years old, like all the fat, and I've fluctuated back and up and down since then, but I'm going on 20 years in terms of trying to keep my body in shape. So you learn along the way exactly how your system specifically works for you.
Right. So you were able to keep it off all those years. You never went back to being fat, basically.
I've gotten pudgy or gotten chubby, especially on like when I was doing the bulk and cut cycles, but not so much anymore. I think coming out of, I mean, you can look at my Instagram and see, but I think around Christmas time, like you'll see it like a little, like I'll get a little puffy in the face maybe, or for me, the guideline is that like once my fat around my belt line, if it starts to spill over, then that's done. It means I have to cut. I don't like muffin tops or any sludge. I call it slop. I don't like any slop spilling over. So that's kind of like my personal baseline. But again, that looks differently for every guy. I would recommend most guys stay on a leaner side, like around 15% body fat or even lower if you're able to maintain it, just because your body does different things biologically and metabolically once you get there. And I'm also really big into my new fitness goal is to age gracefully. So I think most studies show that people, like the cultures that live the longest, people that live the longest, they're usually on a caloric deficit, and it's something. It's like that golden ratio. It's like 2/3 of what they actually need, and that provides longevity. But I also do the intermittent fasting too. So I like doing extended fast, so I can go in that phase of autophagy where your body essentially just takes out the trash, like your trash cells, precancerous cells, or DNA's that's screwed up. Your body just flushes all that shit out. So that's kind of my focus too. Like, yes, there's athletic performance, there's the aesthetic approach, but my larger focus is to just age gracefully and not be decrepit and crippled when I'm 70, 80, 90 years old.
Right. So I get a lot of questions or concerns from clients. It's like, people are busy. How do you find the time to get the workout in every day? And how do you find the time to eat right and not take fast food every day?
Yeah, you know what? I follow a protocol just like that. So like I was saying earlier, I'm reducing my frequency in the gym to every other day. I still have like a routine that a bodybuilding coach gave me years ago. Usually when I get cut up, that's the routine I follow. I can post that in the top 10% group. I need to just kind of format it a bit. But so I'll follow that routine or a similar one based on whatever's available at whatever gym I'm going to at the time. And as long as I get the volume or I hit my numbers within a 7-day period or a week period, then I don't really care if I do one full body workout a week or if I do a bro split for every day of the week. If I do push pull legs, if I do front and back, whatever the split looks like, it doesn't really matter. As long as I get the volume I need in the week, then I can do that. I can stack that around my schedule however I like. And then for the diet thing, like I said, I do like more of the caloric and targeted cyclical keto, which is I'll eat more calories and carbs on days I lift more intensely. And then if I don't do anything at all, for example, today, like if I'm not hungry later tonight, I might just not eat. And my TDEE, which is the total daily expenditure of energy, it's usually around like 3,000 to 3,300, probably less if I'm not lifting or getting out doing cardio. So So for me, like that's roughly like a pound of body fat a day lost, give or take, which I believe a pound of body fat is roughly 3,500 calories that you need to have in a deficit. So think of it in longer terms rather than day to day. A lot of people get caught in the day to day, like, oh my God, I need my 5 to 7 meals today, or oh, I need my one meal today. I do OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. That's really nice because I can spend all day not worrying about food, not thinking about it, and then at night, I am a former fat kid, so I like to feed my inner fat kid. And if you're eating clean, guess what? To get 200 grams of protein from a clean protein source, you're going to get really full really fast, and you're still going to be in a very stupid large deficit. So that's kind of what I do. And then again, if there's a few days where like this happened a couple of weeks ago, there's like 3 days where I was just like mentally in the zone working. Like I'd wake up, work all day, go to bed, lay in bed thinking about it, like force myself to sleep a few hours, spring out of bed, get back at it. And I wasn't hungry. Some people might say that's like kind of like a miniature manic episode, but for me, my energy comes and goes. There's peaks and valleys. Some days I'm just on fire and I'm not hungry. And other days I'm like, God, my body hurts. I'm mentally exhausted and I just want to recover. So again, once you kind of learn how you work in your personal situation, then you can kind of just feel it out.
That's actually a really good point because I kind of fall into that too. There's days where I'll eat 1,000 calories like early. I like to eat at like 11 or noon and then go and walk and work out and do all that stuff. And then at nighttime, I don't get hungry at nighttime anymore. I don't know what that, why.
I have to force myself to eat now.
Nighttime's just not a food thing for me. It's like, the 8 hours fasting plus like 3 or 4 hours when you get
That's
up.
why
So
I
it's
eat
like,
at night because I don't eat as much rather than snacking throughout the day.
Yeah, so if I haven't eaten that day and I go, oh fuck, I haven't eaten that day, I should probably go ahead and do that. Then I'll eat like 1,000 calories or 800. It's really easy to do that when you're on a carnivore diet, right? Just eat a pound of meat and 4 eggs, and you're 1,300 calories into your day.
And it fills you up. I order like a kilo of 99% lean ground beef. I get like 60% through it and I'm full. Usually I have a +1, so I calculate that usually the girls I have over will eat exactly half as much as I do, so I kind of take that into consideration. So I'll buy a kilo of beef, eat 2/3 of it, and then the girl will have the rest. But if someone flakes or something, then like I'm good at 2/3 of a kilo. I'm full.
Oh, totally. And I go get those tubes. You get that nasty ass ground beef in tubes. I buy the
the big ones,
the big ones. Yeah, and I chop that shit in half, and I'll make a pound and a half of it and 4 eggs, and that's what I'll have for food. That's like 1,700-1,800 calories, and I mean I'm a 230-pound guy, so at 230 pounds I burn about 2,200 calories basically resting every day. So I'm kind of in a 2-pound deficit on accident. And then like Sundays, if I want to go out and have, a cigar, some non-alcoholic beers, whatever, just kind of be like a regular person, I have a 8,000 calorie deficit for the week, and I can drink 6 or 7 of those beers if I really want to, right? If I feel the need to, because overall, I'm long term, it's not hurting me from a calorie perspective. So I don't really even have to think about, like you were saying, I don't even really have to think about calories anymore as much, because I just intend on exercising as much as I can and taking in as little food as is going to be healthy for me. That's pretty much
your body kind of tells you what you need. Like earlier when we were talking, like Lee, I think you mentioned like pizza in Chicago. Psychologically, it's like, ooh, my brain lit up. Like, yeah, pizza sounds good, but after a couple minutes, that fleeting, I don't know if I'd call it like an addiction, or that fleeting desire or craving, that goes away, and I listen to my stomach. My stomach's telling me now that I want like a big ass salad with like a ton of chicken on it, and then like some kind of light dressing. That might change later in the night. I might want to do like a chili or like a pasta without, any noodles or anything. So today will be, I didn't lift today, so today will be a carb-free day for me. But also, Jake, to address your question regarding people with the tough schedules, like the fast food thing, this last weekend was my birthday. So a lot of people wanted to go out, and what I'll do, I'm not a big drinker, but like I'll go out and get a whiskey, which alcohol is the 4th macro. A lot of dietitians don't, I'm sure they know it, but they won't tell you this. It has no nutritional benefit, and it screws everything up biologically, metabolically. So I don't recommend it. It will stop protein synthesis in its tracks. It will stop all of those processes. And especially if you're having like a grueling workout, you break down your muscle fibers, and then you start drinking. I don't know, you're probably going to go catabolic. It's probably not the best thing to do, but
Call the CrossFitters and tell them that, because they like to drink
Yeah,
beer
right.
after they go hard.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, alcohol is the fourth macro, and it does have some benefits, like with that water reduction. It'll make your skin like paper thin. I was in Cancun a couple months ago, and after 3 days of drinking and partying, I woke up on Friday. I was like, oh, I have a six pack. Like, I don't, but I'm just severely dehydrated at that point. So this thing, like this last weekend, I went out. I think I went out like every day of the weekend. So go out and have a drink or two. It's roughly 100 calories per drink, assuming they're using the standard shot in the little jigger that they put in there. And then whatever, for like an old fashioned, they do put some simple syrup in there. So add like 50 to 100 extra calories or whatever that looks like for you, or however they prepare it. And at the restaurants, like I normally go to pretty fancy restaurants here, so I'll order something light, something snacky, like a finger food. Maybe I'll get a couple hundred calories, even if I do go over. So let's say I do like too many whiskeys, and then I eat something like a little fried or whatever. But we normally just order like apps or like a shared dish for the table. Let's say I do go over, and then I'll just come home and like chug some egg whites or do like some protein isolate to make sure that I fill in my protein. You always want to hit your protein, and that's kind of how I approach like having a social life too. If I go to a restaurant or fast food, I always say like the most or the healthiest option available at the table. So like here, I'll order like guacamole or like ceviche or something like that. A lot of the nice restaurants, they won't have like super crazy amounts of protein. So I'll keep that in mind. Even if I have a couple of carbs, I'll just kind of nibble on stuff to try it out. And then when I come home, I'll fill in the rest of the protein. And that seems to work well for me, because I do want to have a social life too. Like we've all met those bodybuilders, those like fitness model type people where they completely forego a social life. Like, oh no, man, got to drink my protein, or, oh, it's been 2 hours, got to eat my tuna, or that's really annoying. I don't want to live life that way. So I try to strike a balance, and that approach has worked more or less for me in terms of, because I get invited to go out all the time. Now, if I go to a steakhouse or something, then hell yeah, I'll go ahead and throw back. We're doing a steak buffet on Sunday, so I will prepare for that and be a complete glutton for that. But when I do a steak buffet, I'm not going to the salad bar. I'm not eating bread, because I want to get my money's worth. So I'm going to go for the nicest cuts and slam it back. And I usually do a meat buffet at least once a week too. For me, that's kind of like since I don't do like full cheat days anymore, for me that's a refeed day. I go to Fogo de Chao, it's a few blocks from here, and just slam it back and make sure I get my money's worth.
Jake, can I take a stab at that, or you guys, would you mind?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, it's open discussion.
So directly to your questions of like, how do you make the time? And so, I think we would probably all agree on this, that we make the time because we make it a priority.
Important,
right? We make time for things that are important to us, right? So I got sick of being fat, out of shape. I have a little girl that I like to chase around. My daughter's 7 now. When I got on this journey, she was 5.5, and I'm like, I don't want to be the fat, out of shape dad at the school that. So I'm like, F it, man. I'm gonna do this every year in my journal entry. So I write a journal entry to myself dated December 31st of that year, right? So this year, December 31st, 2023, I got in the best shape of my life. I did this. I made this amount of money, yada, 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 yada. And every year I would just totally fail on it, right? And so November of 21, I'm like, you know what? I am not going to end the year like this again. I'm not going to do it. So I put on my Brooks. I went running and started lifting weights, and the rest is history, right? We make it a priority. Now, as far as schedule goes, I think this is one of the most important reasons why it pays to be an entrepreneur. It pays to be in charge of your own life versus having a 9-to-5. I own my own business. I run a financial business. I love what I do. I don't take appointments in my business before 11 or 11:30. I just don't do it. Why? I drop my daughter off at school at 7:45, 8 o'clock, and then I head directly to the gym. That's my routine. And on the mornings I don't have my daughter, I may be dropping off my girlfriend, whatever. But I go to the gym, I work out until 11, and then I'll take my first appointment at 11:30. If for some reason I have to have a morning appointment with a client or a prospect or a referral source or whatever, then I will purposely work that in my schedule so that I go to the gym in the afternoon. As far as meal prep goes and not doing fast food, it's not that hard. You prepare the meals at home, you put it in the little cooler or the little, cool bag or whatever, and you bring it with you. Or you prepare ahead of time. That should eliminate the fast food, but those are practical tips of make the gym part of the day. make the meal planning part of what you're eating. That's going to eliminate it. But really, none of that matters if this isn't right first. If we haven't made the commitment to saying, you know what, I'm not going to be a fat ass anymore. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm going to put in the work, do the work, pay the dues, all the things that we talk about in the community. And that solves it. Now, for the 9 to 5 people, they just have to make the time. Whether you wake up at ass o'clock in the morning and you go running in the neighborhood, then do, like Steve, like you were saying, a lot of the push-ups and the sit-ups and all the body weight exercises. You just make it a priority, period. That's it.
Yeah, I can agree with the entrepreneur thing. I've had my business for 4 years, and I can say that, it's only gotten busier, number one, and I've only added more shit, and I only do more shit, and I only have more shit coming up after that shit. So it's just a constant state of kind of putting it at the forefront of your mind. And I think that, it took a long time for me. It took a long time for me to accept the fact that it's going to have to be something that's important to me. That's probably the start for me. It was like, yo, you're 280 pounds, you're 33 years old, you're starting to get gray hair in your face, you're starting to look like that guy that you fucking pitied 10 years ago. Like, let's not go down that road. And it even took a little push from Jaron over there. He even said some shit to me that I didn't even think about, right? As far as,
told
like,
you, you're gonna die. Like,
yeah,
you were getting up
longevity
there.
and health,
Yeah.
right? Because I was drinking every day, right? I was drinking a lot. I mean,
Drinking and being obese, you weren't gonna make it.
Yeah, it was between 6 and 12 drinks a day on average, like every
Wow.
single day. And it was easy to do because I work for myself. I can sit around and do my work and have a few cocktails or a few beers or whatever. Nobody's going to say a fucking word to me. I was still going outside and exercising, golfing a couple times a week and doing all that stuff. And it was a wonder that I wasn't 350 pounds because I did the math and I should have gained 100 fucking pounds. I should have gained 100 pounds. There was no rhyme or reason why not, other than the fact that I was just still naturally just a fairly active guy. And so anyways, that evolved into, okay, well, I don't really have a 2-hour block necessarily or an hour-long block to go to a gym right now. I can make it in the future, but right now, let's go ahead and get some weight off. Let's focus on our diet.
Get the
let's
fat off first.
Yeah,
I
let's
think that
go
should be the first
outside.
goal.
Let's do shit like that. Let's just keep the intention, right? Like, and keep it in the front of our minds when we're doing stuff. That's why I don't drink regular soda. I accidentally bought a regular Mountain Dew last night. It's still sitting in my fucking refrigerator. I'm not gonna
Diet
drink
Coke or Coke Zero.
Yeah.
Or
Diet Mountain Dew, right?
Mexico.
So it's like getting into a calorie deficit really actually, I don't know why I just switched like that, but getting into a calorie deficit specifically, if it's at the forefront of your mind, isn't that hard to do. And for somebody who owns a business specifically, I think the 1 meal a day or 1.5 meals a day is fucking killer. Like, you spend 20 minutes cooking and eating. It's like, and I'm biased obviously because my shit's easy. I just dump it in a pan, fry it up, and eat it while I'm working.
Ditto.
But for somebody who is like a foodie, that might not work for you. Like, that might not work as much. And maybe you want to do a salad and chicken and fucking go and get 18 different spots. I just don't have the time for it. It's not a priority. But I think for entrepreneurs, I think the most important thing is for, number one, you to get the best sleep possible, because if you don't get the best sleep you can possibly get on any given day, the next day you might as well have a hangover because you're useless, right? And then the next thing would be diet, and then that's long even before exercise, and then filling your mind with healthy shit, and then focusing, then going and doing the exercising, because you don't technically have to exercise fully to lose weight. I think that's a fallacy. Everybody thinks they got to go get a gym membership and go.
I'm skipping the gym today. I'm just going to be in a huge deficit. I'll lose weight.
Yeah. And like, I'll be I'm perpetually in a 500 to 1,000 calorie deficit because I'm active and I eat about 2,000, 2,200 calories a day on naturally. And when I feel a little lower, I'll kind of hedge against the calorie deficit and throw some rice or some oatmeal in it. So now that feels like a fucking cheat meal. Eating rice or oatmeal feels like a cheat meal. It's kind of awesome because it does. You, like, when you're on a carnivore diet and that's what you sell yourself, you're like, okay, well, no carbs, no carbs, no carbs. Of course, you lose a bunch of water weight and all that shit. But when you're exhausted and you have no explosiveness, like in doing squats or whatever, and you're just tired, you're mentally tired, you just fucking refeed something. Like, try it. I don't care. Eat a couple pieces of chocolate. Like, it ain't gonna kill you, right? If you're in that much of a calorie deficit, It's like today, I ate that bag of gummy worms. I didn't fucking eat anything yesterday. I ate 2 pounds of meat today. So I'll throw some gummy worms in there. I'm still in a pound deficit. I've lost 1.5 pounds this week. I'm not fucking tripping. So it's like people get too hard. They think they have to base their whole life around it. And the reality is you don't have to base your life around it. It just has to be at the forefront of your mind when you're making decisions during the day. Because you could cut out fucking mayonnaise and lose weight, for Christ's sake, for people who eat sandwiches, right? This shit's 100 calories per 2 tablespoons.
Yeah.
You're looking to be in a 300 to 500 calorie deficit a day. Cut out fucking sugary ketchup, cut out mayonnaise, cut out ranch dressing. I know that shit, all that shit is great. But
I make ranch with avocado and then like
That
some
sounds
almond milk
delicious.
for consistency. It's so good because that like you do need some fat. Like I am on TRT.
Yeah, I eat a shit
I
ton of
stay within a physiological range, so you don't need as much dietary fat as someone who's natural. Which we can get into that topic. People ask me all the time, like, "Oh, natty versus not natty." Like it's such a weird. We can table that and bring that back up. But Stevie made a good point in terms of like how it fits into your identity. So. For me, I remember I used to always think in my head, like, gotta kill the fat kid, gotta kill the fat kid. And I'm like, well, no, and then I thought, okay, I am the fat kid. I got to feed the fat kid. And then once I hit the age of 34, I just recently turned 36. So once I hit the age of 34, I was like, wait, I've been fit longer than I was fat. It's like, I'm not technically a fat person anymore. I need to stop having that internal dialogue with myself. Now, I had a lot of weight on me when I was a kid. So I still have like a lot of loose skin around the trunk, but when I get really lean, it just like you can like tuck it below the belt line and no one really sees it. And when you have your shirt off, it like stretches out. Obviously, the best way to deal with loose skin is to build muscle underneath it, just so it can kind of like pull it out. But again, those are like when you get deeper into your journey, your diet, or whatever your goals look like. For a lot of guys, it's like, hey, I just want to not be obese. So I'll tell guys like, bro, you got 100 pounds to lose. Oh, well, should I be lifting? Like, well, if you want to get your cardio from weights, but like, don't be trying to build muscle and lose fat at the same time necessarily, unless you're at that point to where you can do like a recomposition type plan. But for me, it's like, all right, lose the 100 pounds of fat. And then I gave my body some time to readjust because all of a sudden you feel a lot lighter and things change. And like once you get to that end result, like when you used to be obese for your entire life, and then you're like, whoa, I'm like 100 pounds lighter now. Takes some time to get used to your new body. And then after that, I started lifting, and starting lifting after already being lean, it was so much easier to put on muscle than guys that are constantly. Yeah, because when you're fat, like you can do a recomposition thing. So it really depends on what you want to do. But normally I suggest like you're already putting a lot of stress, like being fat, you're already putting stress on your body. And then cutting, you're putting stress on your body, and then trying to bulk at the same time, you're putting stress on your body, and you're probably doing some mental stress too, dealing with the food addiction thing. It's been so long since I've had food addiction, but like Steve, kind of the way you're talking, people that are like, they spend all day thinking about food. That's why I like OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, because think of if you're doing 5 to 7 meals a day, unless you meal prep, which that works for a lot of people. Sometimes I get real busy, so I'll have like a food delivery service here, and you just put in the app what you want your macros to be, and they plan it for you, and they just drop it off every day fresh. That works well for me sometimes. Sometimes that doesn't work well. But I know a lot of people, they're literally all day like, oh, I got to eat every 3 hours. So okay, you get like an hour, maybe an hour and a half at best at deep, focused, intensive work where you're not being distracted, and then you have to task switch. You have to think about what you're going to eat, and then you have to prepare what you're going to eat, and then you have to eat it. Guess what? When you're eating, you're not 100% focused on what you should be focused on. Then you have to clean up, unless no, I don't have any dishes stacked up now, but sometimes you get busy, and then guess what? Okay, you're back into work. Well, it's going to affect your energy. Your energy levels are going to wane. One thing I like about the low carb and the 1 meal a day is your energy is consistent throughout the day. People comment all the time on my channel, like, oh, like you'll see I'll go on live streams from other guys in the space, and I have consistently more energy than them. They're like, what the hell's that guy on? I'm like, I'm not on anything. That's natural energy.
Yeah.
Or I had the girl I had over earlier, and she's like, you only eat once a day? Like, how do you get your energy?
Kill you?
I'm like, all right, guys, this is a revelation that a lot of people don't realize. Body, or like, it's like one of these trigger words on YouTube. People get offended if you call them fat. You're like, no, you just have an excess store of energy. Like fat is just a store of energy. So when people ask me like, oh, you're not going to eat today? Well, what are you going to do? Like, I don't have much on the midsection. I've got a little on my legs, but like I can grab a pocket of fat and be like, this is my day. Like, this is my energy. You can literally see it. My brain is trained to the point I can see people in public and they're like, oh, I'm starving. I'm like, nah, ma'am, you got 30 days on you.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like,
Gents,
I view fat as a store of energy.
On that note, I'm sorry I got to bug out. I got an appointment here coming up. But hey,
Yeah,
thanks
any
for having me
parting words?
on.
Yes, sir.
No, I really appreciate this, Steve and Jaron. Thank you, and Jake for joining and bringing value to the community. Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Yeah, thanks for popping up with us. And you're welcome anytime. And guys in the chat, or if you want to leave any questions in the chat, I'll get to the first couple of comments here. You can feel free to join us on stage. Again, we're doing more of the open discussion type thing because YouTube's not going to push my content to new audiences. So I have to like do the clips and reels type techniques. So yeah, come on up here, have a real discussion. We'll just kind of keep it lighthearted and loose. And Lee, I want to thank you for stopping on by. You're more than welcome
Yeah, but it
anytime
was
you'd
nice to
like.
meet you.
And we normally
Thank you,
go
guys.
long on
Same.
these things. So after your appointment, feel free to jump back on up, or if you have any questions,
of
throw them
course.
in the chat, and
We'll be here for a
get
bit,
to 'em.
I'm sure.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Be well.
All right,
All
take
right.
care. Good luck.
You too.
Yeah, Jaron, I got a question. It's an opinion question. If you were to pick one, fitness or eating right, which one would you pick? What's more important in your opinion?
I'd say eating right. So
Yeah,
I naturally have a big build, so I don't have to do much in the gym to put muscle on me. In fact, well, now I've got a lot of lean body mass. Take that back. But when I do a DEXA scan, like I'm really wide. I have a really broad rib cage. I have a really broad pelvis. I have broad shoulders. I was born that way. My buddies at home, like whenever they meet my mom, because my brothers they're bigger than I am. They're like, "Oh, you poor thing. How the hell did she birth all you kids?" But I'm naturally built that way. So when you have a bigger, broader frame, you don't need a lot of muscle on top of it for it to look really good. You just got to minimize that body fat. Now I know there's other guys like I see like here in Mexico, people aren't just genetically they're not as big as North American people. So I'll see guys in the gym and like they really have to work to put on the muscle to have, and you can see they have like the rounded shoulders or whatnot, but they still have like a narrow frame, or maybe they don't have like the widest hips. Like I look like I'm completely blocky or square. I'm about as wide as I am tall naturally. So if I were to just stop lifting entirely, yeah, I'd look skinny for me based on my standards, but I'd still look good. I'd probably lose
yeah.
10, 15 pounds of muscle in the course of 6 months to a year. Although I am on TRT and I'm active enough to where I really don't think I'd incur much muscle loss. And I really don't train that heavy, and I haven't done that in years. And I still, I still have a decent amount of muscle mass on me. So me personally, I'd say that diet is probably the biggest thing. And I'll tell you what, there's been times where I've been really diligent and dedicated in the gym, but my diet's off and you're just kind of spinning your wheels. You're like, what? Or I did a vegan diet for a while in California. And I was like, where's my lean body mass? Why don't I look like muscular jacked? Like I was still eating calorically correctly in a deficit, but vegan food is mostly junk food. It's pure shit. You shouldn't be putting that in your body.
Mhm.
These protein replacements or insufficient amino profiles, and then like you're deficient on vitamins. Like my bones started getting brittle, my nails started flaking off, my hair started thinning and falling out, and like patches on my temples would fall out. Like I was a little stressed during that time too, because I was living in California and I was a vegan, but that will make you stressed out. If you've ever met any of those people, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But for me, like that's a terrible diet. Now that depends on your goals. If you're really into this whole nonsense, like oh, save the planet by eating 10 times more vegetables than you need as compared to a 4-ounce piece of meat to get the same nutrition and caloric value. Okay, if you buy into that nonsense and that's your religion, that's cool, but realize you're going to have nutritional deficiencies and your physique's going to suffer because of it. But after the whole vegan thing, I went to an endocrinologist. I'm like, hey, what the hell's wrong with me? He's like, they ask you a bunch of stuff. And he's like, he put me on a 30-day steak and eggs diet, and almost immediately my bone mineral content went up. And I do DEXA scans before and after any dietary or fitness changes to make sure that I have the numbers there. And the only variable there was changing the diet. Kept everything consistent in the gym, and like immediately I saw that the bone mineral content, the BMC, went up considerably to a healthier level. Muscle mass started coming back. This was long before I was on TRT. Leaned up real quick, and really within 30 days, did like a real quick recomp, and I just felt so much better because I had deprived my body of nutrition and real food for so long. A lot of people don't realize this, but like if you're a male, especially doubly so if you're natural, you have to have animal source protein. Otherwise, you're not gonna generate testosterone. You will, but you're not going to be optimal at a natural level. And a lot like they don't tell people that, like, oh, do a vegetarian thing, do a vegan thing. Like, okay, but your T levels are going to drop. Like if that's your goal, that's fine. But for me, and you'll hear me say time and time again, what's your goal? Because I'm deliberate about my life. Whatever it is I'm doing, there's a purpose for it. Whereas a lot of people, when it comes to fitness and diet, they have no purpose. Oh, they just kind of fall into it, or they become slave to their food addiction, sugar addiction, carb addiction, whatever you want to call it. Usually there's an element of all of those involved for most people that don't make fitness and diet a priority. But if I see someone who's 100 pounds overweight, I assume that's their goal, because in my head, I'm like, if I want to put 100 pounds of pure body fat on, do you know how much fucking effort that would take me? That would be like a year and a half of 2 years of me, like not even neglecting myself, but intentionally just being a complete glutton. And like I go to like a Chinese buffet, or if I do have like an actual cheat day, I feel like shit the next day. So I've got to do that consistently for years at a time to get to the point of obesity. So when I see people like that, I'm like, oh, that must be their goal, because they're doing it intentionally.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of the way that alcohol was for me. I mean, I drank nearly every day at the rate that I was saying for fucking 3 years straight, nearly. I mean, there was days where there was like weeks or whatever in that 3 years that I didn't do it. But I mean, I went from 225 pounds to 285 pounds in a year and a half. And what's weird about weight is when you're in the middle of the situation, you don't really realize what you're doing. I mean, you realize what you're doing subconsciously, but as far as putting weight on, one day you can see your dick when you pee, and the next day you can't. Right? And then next thing you know, you don't have a real, like, you're looking in the mirror and, you know, maybe you're slightly bigger, your clothes are fitting slightly snugger or whatever, but it's not a deliberate, like, I'm wearing the same clothes I was at 285. You know, the only way that I mean, I obviously know there's a difference in like my waistline and shit like that, but the only reason I even think about it is my girl tells me, oh shit, you know, that's hanging on you. And I'm like, oh, cool, you know, right? So yeah, I agree with Jaron as far as the deliberate nature. It even happened to me that I was really, really low energy, eating more chicken and fish than anything, which was really, really interesting. I was still getting
ideally you want to go red meat. Red meat is the most nutrient dense thing.
Oh,
you can put your face
100%.
on the
Well,
planet. Organ
that's
meat,
why
you know, if you
I
can
would.
stomach it.
Yeah, right. I eat 2 ounces of liver twice a week. So
I do the tabs, or you can buy it in powdered form here in Mexico, which is nice. So just, you know,
yeah, that's dope.
back.
Yeah, I just fry it in butter, medium rare, because it's actually better medium rare than it is fully cooked. Believe it or not.
Vinegar and onions.
Yeah, I mean, that was originally I would do a liver and onions type of spread and just throw it next to the ground beef I was eating or the steak or whatever it was, and just eat it with it. And you know, at first you don't really like it, but after a bit, you kind of crave it. Like your body craves whatever nutrients are through it. I try not to eat it and not go get any sun though, because the vitamin A concentration is so high, and then you need the vitamin D to offset it. So that's kind of different. Like people just eating a fucking 2 ounces of liver a day are just going to have problems in a couple of years. You know, they might feel, actually, people who start eating it, have you heard that those people who start eating liver after not eating any of those big like the copper and the vitamin A, they get a euphoric vibe, like feeling in their brain
from all the minerals after being deprived for so long.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It happened to me for like the first week after I quit drinking. I was doing it and I was like, man, I can't even fucking work after I eat that shit because I'm just high as shit. I want to go climb a tree or something. My energy's so high.
I felt like that when I started TRT, like the first week, because I was, you know, I naturally got it up into like what would be acceptable by like most American medical standards range, but it was not anywhere near optimal or where it should be, because that range includes, you know, little boys up to guys who are like, you know, on their deathbed. So, you know, it's the weighted average of all of those people. I want the average of optimal people. And my endo asked me one time, he's like, do you want to be normal or do you want to be optimal? I was like, well, dude, like, obviously I'm paying out of pocket to see a fucking endocrinologist. Obviously I want to be optimal. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. But Steve, you skirted over something too, which this was a post, Lee's gone, but a post that came up in the top 10% private group a couple weeks ago about like dick size.
Yeah.
And one thing, when you get leaner, it's not like it suddenly grows. You're not going to put inches on it, but relative to the rest of you, like when I was like big and fat, I always thought like, oh my God, it's so small because it looks like a fucking thimble next to 100 pounds of extra body fat in that general region.
Yeah.
Now that I'm getting into leaner territory, when I stepped out of the shower, because like you're fat, you don't lose all your fat in certain areas at once. Like my arms are, I look at DEXA scans, my arms are always considerably leaner than like my midsection. My midsection is leaner than like my flanks or like my inner thighs. my legs are usually quite a bit leaner than the rest of my body at any given time. So I'll start seeing veins in my arms and legs long before I see them in my abs. So I'm getting to the point in my cut where all of that, where all of the like the cushion, like in your pelvic region, that's starting to go in. So again, like your dick's not getting bigger, but the fat around it is like starting to shrink in. So getting out of the shower, I'm just like, holy shit! Like,
Yeah,
wow, I didn't
attaboy.
realize I was working with that, because when you're bigger, it's all relative. I have massive legs. I have like 28-inch quads.
Yeah,
So
me too.
so that looks like two 28-inch quads next to like your junk. You're like, oh, all right, it doesn't look that good. But when you start getting leaner and your legs are all cut up, and you have like no fat around your pelvic region, you're like, oh, damn. Like, all right, cool. That's why skinny guys like always look like they're fucking packing. You're like, no, there's just nothing around it.
Yeah, that's funny, because I noticed that a little bit too. Obviously, coming down the last 90 days, 35 pounds. I'm like,
Hey, Jaron, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You got to bounce.
Yeah, you got to bounce. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Feel free to come
all right,
back
bud.
anytime.
Nice
And
to meet you.
yeah, take care, guys in the chat, and feel free to join us. Steve, before you get on that point, I'm gonna Huds. What's good, gents? Huds, get on up here if you're still around. Yeah, you know what? We'll finish this topic about weight loss and dick size, and then that'll segue into this this next question.
what a random thought.
Perfect, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny, but I mean, these are questions that people
These
have.
are real.
I
mean,
these
these are real things that we're all worried about, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, the last 35 pounds, you do get out of the shower and you're like, all right, you're not hiding so much no more, right? And
your performance in the bedroom improves too when your overall fitness improves. Like this again, not to brag, but I just turned 36 and had like a 19-year-old girl over. She was hot, hadn't seen her in a bit, and came over. We were done, showered off together. And then within like a few minutes, I was ready to go again. She's like, "Are you serious?" I'm just like, "Well, yeah. Like I'm in good shape."
You're not carrying around all that shit.
And when your hormones are in check too, and your diet's in check, and your vitamins and your minerals are in check, as a guy, you should be ready to go pretty much at any moment, moment's notice. Yeah. If you're not at that point, then you need to look at your health, because that is a telltale indicator that there might be something off. Or I'll hear guys my age say like, "Oh yeah, I miss the days when I got morning wood." I'm like, dude, you should have morning wood every morning. Like, that's not normal if you don't. Oh, it's because my age. I'm like, no, it's just because you treat your body like shit. Like,
sure.
A properly functioning male body should have these things all in order. It's just a really complex system when you look at it that way. And if you're neglecting any individual component of the system, or compound that, if you're neglecting multiple components in the system, that i.e. you, then yeah, it's not gonna be optimal, and you're gonna have these consequences. But a lot of people think, oh yeah, society lies to you so much. Oh yeah, it's a part of getting older. I was like, well, no, it's not. Like, the older you get, the easier it is to be in shape, because I now have 36 years in this body on this planet. I know a lot more at 36 than I did when I was 16.
Right.
Because I have 20 more years of experience to
that's
base
true.
that on.
I never thought about it like that, but yeah, I mean, you can pretty much assume that anytime somebody tells you it's really hard to do something, that it's probably not nearly as hard as what they told you.
Yeah, those are excuses they tell them.
Yeah, I mean, that's an average person piece of nonsense, really. I mean, it's not. I can say now, I mean, obviously, while I was, and this is to all the people who are out there that want to lose weight, it's like, yeah, it seems hard at first, but once you're in the midst of it, you get addicted to the result. Number one, like, you just get a kind of a low key addiction to like seeing a quarter of a pound fall off of you. And you just try to stack that, and it's constant. It's just a constant stacking. So the number might be 229 for me now, starting 284. But like, in my mind, I'm still like, okay, well, I still need to achieve my pound and a quarter a week. Like, the destination is nothing. Like, it doesn't to me, it doesn't, the destination, whatever destination that is, because I'm not even sure with, losing alcohol and like being on a great diet and moving a lot. I've never been this optimal as a human being, as far as my energy and the way that I eat, and my activity being consistent and intentional, without going to a gym and then going and getting drunk and doing all that shit. So like, I'm relearning everything. Like, I'm relearning how my body operates at the end of the day. I have noticed I've lost a ton of anxiety and a ton of depression and a ton of like energy dips and a ton of all that shit. But for people who need to lose 50 plus pounds. It's a matter of skipping a meal. Like, just skip a fucking meal, bro.
That's
Like,
one of
start
the.
there.
A lot of people overlook that. People are like, oh, how do you lose weight? Like, just don't eat as much. And like, oh, and they have these ideas like, well, if I don't eat, if I go a whole day without eating like you, like I'm gonna get really sick. Like, no, dude, you're 50 pounds overweight. You're already sick. Your body could use the break. In fact, you could stretch that out to a week or even a month, and you'll still be okay. Need to get your vitamins and minerals, electrolytes, salt
whatever
intake,
it
all
is,
that stuff. But
that shit doesn't start to fuck around until like 30 or 40 days without it.
It doesn't. You don't start feeling off until you get to like single-digit body fat. That's why, like a lot of those bodybuilders, when they get up there, they're emaciated, and a lot of them actually look better once they get off stage and they have a drink and then hit a Chinese buffet or whatever their cheap meal of choice is. A lot of them look better the following day. I've done that before. I've done like fitness photo shoots, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go eat a whole pizza and drink a giant IPA, and then I look jacked the next morning because my glycogen store is refilled with all those carbs and the alcohol dehydrates it. You're like, damn it! All right, I should have done that.
I think I texted you the other day actually. When like it was like Saturday or it was Monday that I texted you, and I was like, dude, I look like I'm 5 pounds lighter, and I sent you the side-by-side pictures, and I just looked like I did a fucking massive workout and got a huge pump, and all I did was eat 2 bowls of oatmeal and a bowl of rice the day before, because I don't normally eat carbs most of the time.
Yeah. That's just about understanding how your body chemistry works, which, Steve, I know for now, like your goal isn't necessarily to look like a bodybuilder. So you can go prolonged amounts of time without doing carbs. I normally go low or no carb too, but if someone calls me up like, hey, I want to do a photo shoot, then okay, then I'm going to start playing around. Like I will carb up. Usually I do like a clean carb source. That's when I'll do like 5 to 7 meals a day because I don't want to spill over. Spill over means that it converts to body fat, but first, like you'll refill your liver stores, your glycogen stores, and anything in surplus, it just kind of hangs out via it pulls water too. Carbohydrate literally means like it hydrate, hydros. It pulls water in, so you'll get subcutaneous water, which like blurs the muscle lines and stuff. So I'll do like a clean carb load if I'm doing like a photo shoot or again like destination wedding or something. Steve, you did mention something too in terms of going to the gym. Feeling like an addiction. And I know when I first started getting into the gym, like I've never not been in the gym, but like a lot of guys, if we're being honest, you go to the gym, you kind of half-ass it. You don't really have a goal set. You don't have a routine. You don't really know what you're doing. You completely neglect the diet, and you go there day by day and you look the same day by day. The more you start dialing in those details, that's where you'll start making more progress with your physique and just overall general health. But I got to the point, like when I started going to the gym, it was addictive. Like, hell yeah, you're seeing progress and you're feeling better. But now I've been at it for so long. Like, it's like when you get deep into addiction, like alcoholism or weed or food or whatever your drug or stimulus of choice might be, to where it's truly an addiction where you don't even feel good when you do it. You feel shitty if you don't do it. And that's kind of like me with like gym and fitness. I don't feel good going to the gym. Like, most days I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to the goddamn gym because I've done it every day almost for like 20 years. You kind of get tired of it after a while, but I always look forward to that walk home, how good I feel on that walk home. So for me, it's like, all right, like if I skip the gym for more than like 2 or 3 days in a row, I don't go to the gym because like, yeah, I'm addicted and I love going to the gym. It's like, I go to the gym because I'm addicted and I feel shitty if I don't go to the gym. So it's just something I have to do to maintain myself. And it goes back to that identity issue too. Like, I don't view myself as a fat person. So like physically, like my body and the physical manifestation in this form and this dimension and this world, this realm, whatever you believe in, well, I don't view myself as a fat person. It's like, I'm not going to show up being physically a fat person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, the same vibe I have with the way that I eat. I feel very good about the way that I eat, right? And whenever somebody asks me, how can you maintain that? Well, I feel very good about myself as a human being when I eat very well, when I choose to stick to my diet. It's the same thing with because it's not that I don't go to a traditional gym. I just don't subscribe to traditional bodybuilding shit because I don't need to. I'm already 230 pounds and I don't go to the fucking gym. So
I've been there, done that. When I'm at 230, I'm big and I'm strong, but that's still a lot of stress on my system. I'm a few inches shorter than you, but when you get leaner, it's just kind of easier for all of your systems involved. And again, that goes into like more of my anti-aging or just longevity type approach that I'm looking at now.
No, and that's exactly it. Is like if you can go walk for 5 miles outside. If you're a dude or a girl, wear as little clothes as possible. Get some sun on your skin. Feel really good. For me, if I had to give somebody the advice, is like just go outside, take your shoes off, and go for a fucking walk. If you can do that without stabbing yourself in the foot with something in your neighborhood, right? Walk around without your fucking shirt on.
Don't
Walk
do that.
around
Don't go barefoot in Mexico.
Yeah,
It's usually a bad
don't
idea.
do that. But
Although I'm pretty ballsy, I do that fairly often. But I'm in a nice neighborhood, or if I'm at like a resort on the beach. But yeah, generally, yeah. I think in the U.S. now too, there's like needles in there's needles and like human feces in half of our major cities. So yeah, maybe it's so sad. Things I used to make fun of Mexico for 20 years ago. I'm like, oh wait, the U.S. does that now too.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't see human feces or like hypodermic needles anywhere in Mexico. Like even in like the most ghetto ass neighborhoods in the U.S. you do in nice neighborhoods.
It's super weird.
It's crazy.
But yeah, it's go for it. Just start by going for a walk, and then start by, if you can't do fucking 20 push-ups, do 10. Do 10 times, do them 10 per hour throughout the day. It takes 30 seconds to do them. And then if you're not in an office environment and you're at the house, do some fucking air squats or do some dips off the couch or just do something, right? Do something to get your mind into the movement thought. And then as you get closer, whatever closer looks like for you to whatever goal you're looking at, and you feel better and you're more fit and you have more energy, then you can actually go and, like, if you want to join a CrossFit gym, go do that. Or if you want to go fucking play pickleball 3 days a week, go do that. Or if you want to go play baseball or join an adult sports league, go do that. And that's the stuff that's just going to put you over the edge as far as longevity. Number one, the social aspect of it is huge.
Or if you be a voracious lover, that does count as cardio in my world.
There you go. Or if you do that, right?
There's a reason I didn't go to the gym today. I'm still getting physical activity. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like human beings. Number one, being social. I think that if we're talking about longevity, the social aspect. If you look at like the Okinawa people, they're 100% about community, and they live like 1,000,000 years. So like if we're going to move kind of in the conversation to the longevity perspective, it's like
Mediterranean diet's fantastic. Yeah, they've done the Okinawa studies. Japanese diet's usually pretty good for that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in Japan,
high nutritional density for low caloric content is the key there. You want to be in a caloric deficit that is highly nutrient deficit or highly nutritionally dense as possible.
There you go. Yeah, that's an interesting balance in my mind, because I'm subscribed to like what is a high calorie, high nutrient based diet, but I eat so little. If I eat fish and chicken, I would fucking be 170 pounds in the next 3 months, just because I wouldn't get any calories in my body at all. So like I think that people have to be really careful about the yo-yo dieting vibe, where they want to lose 10 pounds a week, which I've seen somebody lose 10 pounds a week and they have no energy afterwards.
Yeah, but wrestlers and bodybuilders do it.
Yeah, right. All the
professional fighters, boxers, they weigh in and then they fill up and they're like 20 pounds heavier for the day of the fight.
2 gallons of water and a fucking pizza, and then they're up training in the morning. But yeah, it's like staying away from that stuff. That's kind of like I get afraid for people, because they just the 2 words that really freak me out is quick and easy or fast and easy. Like they just want to do it fast and easy, and the reality is like, guys, I mean, I've been doing this for I've been on my particular journey, this stage of this journey actually, for 6 months. I mean, officially 6 months.
Did you put it on quick and easy? Then you're not going to take it off quick.
It took me 2 years to put it on.
A piece of advice I give to a lot of people, especially if you're new to the whole fitness thing, you're like, oh, where do I start? Like, how do I calculate my macros or do whatever? Like, find your celebrity avatar, at least know your height. And then, so look at height, like male celebrities at this height. And then find someone like more or less like the same frame. I'm not talking about like the muscle mass, but just the same frame, general build as you, general look as you. And then look at their stats. Be like, okay, for me, like I'm 5'11". I think when I did like a big bulk years ago in Texas, got up to like 236. They call me the bovine. I was a big old boy. Like I was strong, and I wasn't that fat either. I was probably like 15 to 18% body fat. But I wanted to get my first 6-pack. I'm like, all right, who's my celebrity avatar? It was like Hugh Jackman in Wolverine.
I was literally just thinking about Hugh Jackman.
It was Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. That doesn't mean I look like him facially, but like the general build and physique shape. So I'm like, all right, well, what were his stats for this movie? And then I was like, okay, I think he got pretty lean. He got like 185, 190 for that. And which is weird too. Like a lot of times, like when you get smaller, people are like, "Oh my God, did you get bigger?" Like, no, I'm actually 30 pounds down, but you have more definition, so it gives that appearance or that illusion that you're a lot bigger. And so I got to the point, like, for me, it's like, I want to make this simple. Like, what does a guy with these stats eat? Like, okay, I'm 236 now. I want to get down to 190, maybe 185. I want to be really shredded. I don't have to really do anything crazy on my diet. I just have to eat like a guy who's 5'11", 185 pounds. And then just do that day over day for a prolonged amount of time. And guess what? There is some lag time, because just because you mentally will it today doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow. But if you hold that in your head and that's your new identity, like, okay, here's my height, here's my weight, here's what I look like now, and just hold that image in your head, you'll be really surprised. Within a year, you just wake up. I mean, it happens a lot quicker, but within a year, you just wake up one day, you're like, oh, I'm that guy now. Like, I'm the jacked guy walking down the beach with like the cute chick. Sweet. All right, cool. So that's a little tip for guys like, hey, I don't know where to start. Take your height, find your celebrity avatar, and then just see like, okay, this is my height. This is what I would look like. You know, similar build. You want to be honest with yourself. Similar build. What is a person that with that height and weight in that muscle definition? What does their lifestyle look like? And then start kind of heading in that direction. And that's always helped me out. Like for now, I think I'm at 87 kilos, which is like 189 or so. I probably want to get down to like 184, 185, and that's like where I'll be in shredded territory after a carb refeed, because I'm kind of deflated now. And at that point, I'm like, okay, so in my head, I'm just eating like 184 pound version of me eats. If I want to get to 215 pounds, I'll eat how a 215 pound version of me eats. That means every now and then, maybe some cookies and chips a couple of times a week. Maybe on Sunday, a cheat day. Like I like my sweets every now and then. That's cookies. I still eat my sweets, but I make homemade versions of them, like almond flour, dark chocolate chip cookies with stevia as a sweetener, and then coconut oil, or like even a little banana as a binder. Banana has some carbs, but it's fructose and it's got potassium, magnesium, all that stuff. So whatever. But you can substitute this stuff too. But for me at 184 pounds at 5'11", my diet has different considerations than it does for me at 215 pounds. Usually during the holidays, I'll get up to like 215 pounds. A lot of that's water. So the minute you go back to like low or no carb, you lose that 10 pounds in a few days. And usually end up the new year around like 200 to 205. And I just slowly cut. 1.5 pounds a week, I'll get 15 pounds off in 10 weeks. And that's really easy to do. That's just me not eating cookies after dinner or having a full cheat day on Sunday. Maybe I'll still do a cheat meal, but I'm not doing a full cheat day anymore. Like there's just those couple little tweaks will get you to that point. Now, if I want to look jacked for a photo shoot, then I got to start playing around with sodium and water. I have to cut out lactose. I'm at the point now I don't do lactose anymore. And so there's different considerations based on where you want to be. But if you want to know, if you're like, all right, here's how I want to be, but how do I get there? Well, just look at someone who's already doing that, and then kind of follow their lead. And then as you get some process or some more experience on your belt, and you get further into the process, then you'll start to figure out what works for you. And I'm a big fan of tracking things too. Like anytime I do anything new, I track it religiously. But I've done so many different diet types, eating styles, eating protocols, like feeding windows, full day fast, extended fast, eating the 5 to 7 meals a day. I've done it all. So you kind of know. It's like, all right, metaphorically, I call it a toolkit. So like, all right, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to go. What tools am I willing to use? Within reason. Like if I want to take crazy doses of steroids and like slam down a bunch of ephedrine, I can do that and get a lot of progress really fast. But that violates my longer term goal of aging gracefully and not putting undue stress on my system. So again, be deliberate about what you want. And then if you don't know where to start, like look at people that have similar stats to you and then how they got there based on your acceptable risk tolerance. Because again, you can, I mean, a lot of people aren't honest about this, but like pretty much if you're a fitness model or like you're some sort of a bodybuilder, we can segue into this at some point. I keep putting it off, but like the whole natty versus like what's the other term? Like enhanced optimal or whatever,
or juiced or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah, like fitness models lie all the damn time too. Like all these guys are on something. Now that doesn't mean they're doing like crazy cycles or anything. They are pretty religious. Or disciplined or diligent about their diet. You have to be, but like a lot of times there is a little slight degree of pharmaceutical enhancement or supplementation.
Yeah, I mean,
it depends on what you're willing to do.
There's a lot of guys that are just on fucking TRT. Like I mean, I'm not on TRT now, but what I told you was I'm going to get myself optimal as far as blood pressure, as far as weight, get myself down, get my habits down, get my diet down, get my exercise down, and then I'm going to go do the blood work and see if there's something that needs to be done. That's what I feel like is the ticket for everybody. Is they just want to go now, I've been waiting for this particular moment, like since I was fucking 2 years ago or a year ago, because I couldn't be a fat alcoholic and on testosterone. That wasn't going to work out.
One time when I was in
Right.
Houston, I did an experiment because I'm a nerd. Went to like LabCorp, did my bloods one day, and then spent that night like crushed like a 12-pack of beer and like smoked a pack of cigarettes. Took my bloods the next day, my testosterone dropped by 200 points. And this was back when I was natty. So guys who are drinking and smoking a lot, or you have a general shitty diet, your testosterone is likely way lower than it should be. If
I think
that was one day. Like if you do it
Yeah.
consistently, then oh.
I think that's heavily that heavily leans into the alcohol vibe, because I know that nicotine is a neuro. What the fuck is the word? Nicotine in and of itself, if you take like the actual salts and shit, it's not bad for you. It's all the extra shit. Yeah, it's all the extra shit that's in it. So I think that that's probably a boost thing, and that's 100%. There was no way there for that 2 years that my testosterone wasn't in like the 300s at least, or
I
maybe
think nicotine on its own has some heart protective properties, and then like Alzheimer's and like dementia prevention.
Yeah, what is it?
Neuroprotectant or something
Neuroprotective
like that,
properties in it as well.
It is a slight stimulant. Like I'm doing nicotine and caffeine right now because I'm getting into the later stages of a cut. I don't get hungry naturally. I don't have the food addiction component to it, but
I just chew my way through the hunger, man. I
also have an oral fixation too. I've had that as a kid. I used to like chew through my shirts. I think that's why I was so fat, because I was always chewing on something, and then that went, the overweight. A lot of times it goes hand in hand with the drinking too. So like I've always got something in my mouth, or I'm always doing something.
That's what
my nails as a kid. I haven't done that since. I think I had a girlfriend in high school. She's like, "That's gross. Don't do that." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. That is pretty gross. Probably shouldn't do that."
If I got hungry, like if I was hungry and I knew that I was still on my way to a goal, I'd just throw a chew in my face and have a sparkling water or a diet soda or something, and all of a sudden I'm not hungry anymore.
So that's talking about the testosterone topic. If you want to bring this one up on the screen, Jake, if you're still here. Jake Bakes, nice. Oh, I like that. Sabora salsa. I like that little avatar image there. Does no FAP increase testosterone?
I don't know the official answer to this. I think that it doesn't. And that's just completely uneducated off the cuff. I've heard some shit about it. I don't think that what I think actually decreases testosterone, or at least increases your dopaminergic response, or your dopamine, whatever you call it, waves, and increases your cortisol levels, is actually porn. So that would be it's like the equivalent of saying, like, if you're talking about jerking off, I would say if you're a guy with an imagination, or if you're a girl with an imagination,
use your spank bank.
Yeah, use your spank bank.
There you go.
Because porn raises your cortisol levels, and raises your dopamine levels heavily.
It's an addiction. Quickly. Yeah, I'd put it in the category as like it's very addictive. I haven't watched porn in years, and not that I ever really did to begin with, because even before I got in like the game topics, like Steve, you're the same way. Like we never had problems getting chicks, so like I never needed to watch porn. And now I have the opposite problem. Like I've got so much abundance that I have to like start rationing my nuts with each girl. I'm like, all right, each girl only gets 2 nuts, because otherwise I'm gonna be fucking dry.
That's a rare problem in the world of men, with 1 of 3 dudes under what?
It's a good problem to have. But after this topic, I'll touch some more on that one too. Or I can do it now. So I think the no FAP thing, I think you nailed it. It really comes down to like a porn addiction, and what that is you're substituting like a digital or artificial experience in place of something real. So like it's like, okay, yeah, you do you cruise around, you find your perfect porn, and then you do your thing, you jack yourself off and you bust your nut. But it's like anything. It's like doing a hit of coke or something. Like you're going to get that high in the moment, but the come down is going to be terrible. And I think that porn has a negative effect as far as like it rewires your brain, so you don't have that sexual motivation. So the reason I went no FAP years ago, and again, not that I ever really did it, I do it every now and then for maintenance purposes. Like if I think back in the day, I'd be like, okay, I'm on a slump if I go 3 weeks without getting laid. Now for the last 3-4 years, like that's like 3 days. I rarely go 2 or 3 days without getting laid. So there's no reason for me to look at porn. And the experience with a real woman, it's just it's like a 3D experience, or it's like it's like playing an old Atari game and then looking at like the new video game technology. Like, is that a real person? Like, it's so good now. It's kind of like that. Like, yeah, you're still kind of hitting those same dopamine receptors, but it's just not the same. And
But
for me,
it's a healthy way to do it. Like it's not bad to have dopamine increases or decreases. Like it's not bad to
it
have
needs to be
a
earned, though,
dopaminergic
I believe.
response to things. It's bad when it's artificially induced. Like
Mhm.
if you the idea is to put it off. Is to have the mental and emotional ability to put that dopamine off. That's what addiction. That's why people crave a drink, and then when they have a drink, it's gone. The dopamine is like that hits, and then they're
Yeah.
tanking.
And when you're boozing, you don't even feel drunk anymore. You just scratch that itch. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, well now I
it's
just feel
exactly
shitty.
what it is. It's the same with gambling. It's the same with. I feel like sometimes people get a little crazy with weed. It's the same with.
I'm
And
finding.
it's
I found myself at that point last week with the weed. I bought like a new pen, and it's like pure wax. It's like 98% THC or something crazy. I
Yeah.
like 4 to like 8% THC because I like the other effects of the plant. So I take like one hit, and like immediately my head hurts, and I don't feel high because it's just pure THC with like no terpenes or
it's
any of the other
amazing how people
ingredients that
can
I
smoke
like.
that shit all fucking day. It's amazing
Yeah,
to me.
so I don't even feel high. I just feel immediately shitty, and with the anxiety, I'm
Yep.
like, okay, well that means this is too much THC for me. I need to like severely back it off. And I was telling you last night, I used a dry vapor and like put my strains that I like in there. I'm like, okay, well no, now I feel fine. So like I think the THC was too high. One more thing on the no fap thing, I did look into it years ago because people were asking me about it, and the big thing I believe when I was doing my research, it came up was a term known as the transmutation of sexual energy. And I really caught on to that because I'm really into energy work. When you get more into energy work, you realize there's a spiritual component to it. So we can do a topic on that maybe one of these days. But I know a lot of guys
Yeah.
don't like that, but you'll get guys. We had a guy in the top 10% group earlier ask like, hey, I can get laid all the time now, but I can't keep the girls around. I'm like, okay, well, you're living in 2D. Like for 3D, you got to start bringing that spiritual thing in and feeling her energy and viewing sex as an exchange of energy. That's also why I don't do the porn thing anymore because it's purely artificial. It's like I don't eat sugar usually. So like every now and then I want like a cookie or a piece of cheesecake or something, but I always get a healthy version. I live in a nice neighborhood, so there's healthy versions. But every now and then I'll do like a real cookie and oh my God, like brains racing and you're like, oh, it's so good. And like the few minutes it takes you to eat it, but immediately you feel guilt, your stomach
Yep.
hurts, you feel shitty, you get a
That
headache.
happens with me in Mexican food.
Yeah,
Believe it or not,
it just
with like
screws you up.
shitty
So
American Mexican food. So
yeah,
bad.
so porn's kind of like the same thing, but the transmutation of sexual energy was a big one for me in terms of like for example, like if I'm going to go out to a nightclub or a music festival, then usually I like to go maybe on a like for me slump a couple days, but I don't like to spill my seeds, so to speak, because I like to have that energy that like I got to go out and get it. Alternatively, a lot of times when I go out to nightclubs now, I'll usually take a girl with me. We'll bang before we go out. And that's just because I want us to be feeling those feel good chemicals like that oxytocin, like that binding or bonding chemical you get afterwards. And
Yeah.
also, I don't like to be thirsty to club. Like I'll get bottle service. I'll sit back on the table, have a good time. I've got my girl there. Like she's not going out looking because she's probably so fucking raw she can't even walk. Let alone okay, yeah, sweetie, leave. Leave me for another guy. Go ahead. But the nightclub thing is nice because everyone's got this like really anxious energy, and I'm just kind of like chill. Like, if we meet another girl and we can take her home, great. And if not, great. I don't care. I've already got that taken care of. But look into the transmutation of sexual energy in terms of like, okay, if you save that energy or if you store that energy, then what can you channel that into? A lot of times it can come through music, some sort of art, your work, increased focus. I got really into that for a while, but I've found that actually my energy is better if I'm getting laid consistently with like a real chick that's like into me. But again, I approach it more from a spiritual level. The types of girls that I bring into my life, they've also developed that part of their personality. Most people, even religious people, like, okay, like I follow this dogmatic sequence by the book, but they actually don't do their energy, their spiritual work. So some of those people are missing that added dimension, like that fourth or fifth dimension. So the types of girls I have in my life, they are into that. They have discovered that part of themselves. So sex is a very powerful energy exchange. The reason I get to the point now where I like it, it's not even like the sensation of like my dick penetrating the threshold and like getting a new notch. okay, like I got over that years ago. I look more forward to after the act where like you have that energy exchange. Like you give her your energy and she gives you your energy. And men and women are meant to be together. So like for guys like love them to death, like the MGTOW guys, like, oh, I don't need no women in my life. Like, okay, but you're not living a full life.
That's so true. I mean,
That's like saying like, okay, I'm operating at 50%. Men and women are meant to be together, which means feminine and masculine energy. So for me, having a steady supply of sex with like real live girls who are into me, who are wired and designed and have those elements of themselves developed to where we can have that energy exchange. For me, like it's kind of required now for me to just be baseline. And going back to the diet thing, like a lot of times, guys, like you'll have your fitness goals, you'll have your lifestyle goals, whatever that looks like. Once you reach that, and then you kind of ease into a maintenance mode, and then you're like, oh, that's just the new me, and that becomes your new baseline, and you want to stay at baseline. And then you might get more aggressive depending on what you want to do. I got to the point in my physique years ago, like, no, I'm pretty happy with it. It requires very minimal maintenance, and I get a lot out of it. So that's kind of where I'm at. But if I want to be a bodybuilder, okay, give me a few months. I can pack on the mass. If I wanted to do powerlifting type stuff, I'm strong as shit too. So like, okay, let me train that way for 90 days. I'll be up there with the big boys. Or if I want to look like a fitness model, okay, I can do that too. So that's kind of like where I'm at. But yeah, the no fap thing, start to look at it in those terms. Like it's really about energy management. So are you spilling your energy for artificial pursuits? Then okay, you're gonna feel shitty about yourself. It's like any addiction. Or if you save that energy and if you learn a little bit of game and how to date, or hell, even if you want like a girlfriend or wife or whatever. Although a lot of times when you start getting more of a commitment involved, the longer you have that commitment, the less frequency you're going to have it, and usually like not as good. It's not going to be that good. You got to give them the power of missing you, which is like why I like doing the MLTR, multiple long-term relationship model, or even like a rotation model. Usually I like to have like 3 to 5 girls in a rotation at any given time, 1 to 2 MLTRs. So like you do have that deeper emotional connection. You have that shared history when you see them. The story picks up where it left off, and it gives you more depth. And like those sexual experiences become, they become a lot more exciting and meaningful and just good in general when you do have that space or that distance, or you allow her that room to miss you and you miss her too. So it depends on how you want to structure your life. But I definitely recommend, guys, if you're watching porn and just spilling your seed incessantly or relentlessly, stop doing that, and then focus on managing your sexual energy like a man. And I mean, spill your seed when it's time to do it, but do it with like a real live female human being, and your life will be a lot better for it.
Right. I don't have anything else to say on that topic. You went over all of that.
Yeah. I don't get asked often about no fat, but every now and then that question comes up, and I know there was like a big. There's
like
always new trending
topics. It's like a fucking
Quora,
whatever Reddit movement where guys were like not jerking off for 30 days. And yeah, you might have some more level of mental acuity that you didn't have before, but that's probably just keeping your head out of fucking porn and not so much the fact that you haven't had sex or jerked off or whatever you want to fucking call it.
Yeah, like anything, whether it's a movement or trending topic, don't make it your religion. I've seen
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I have guys that follow me, and like I'll reach out and open all my new followers and tell them, hey, subscribe to the channel, and here's where you can find me. Let me know if you have any questions, like all that stuff. But I will look at their profiles, like, okay, what does my audience look like? And every now and then, no fap guys do come through there, and they dedicate their entire Instagram account or profile to no fap. I'm like, dude, the fact you don't jack off, like that's not a religion. That's just something you should do as a best practice.
Whether you jack off or not, it's just kind of fucking weird that you would bring it up like that. Actually.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't care how many times you jerk off or don't jerk off. You can tell when somebody does it. I know I can tell you that just based on their energy. Like you can tell when somebody does it.
Well, it's kind of like when you meet alcoholics that have gone through like the 12-step program or like the Alcoholics Anonymous, which, if that works for you and if you need that, then like, God bless you. But dude, I'll meet those people. Last time I was in my hometown, some guy like, dude, I have a face that fucking random people want to talk to. Like, it doesn't matter where I go in whatever country, the people just come up and start telling me weird shit. I'm like, well, why me? Of this entire crowd, why are you talking to me? But this guy came up like, yeah, I haven't had a drink since like 1979, like showed me his token. I'm like, dude, that is so awesome. Like, I would rather have you here now having this conversation with me than you having not stopped drinking in 1979. Because that means you probably would have died before I was born. I was born in 87. So like, okay, but like a lot of energy behind him. I'm like, dude, you're still putting a lot of energy into the fact that you don't drink. So like the no fap thing is no different. Like if you're putting a lot of energy into the fact that like you don't jack off, like that's like, you know what I mean? You're still kind of wasting energy.
Yeah, well, it's actually a really good point back to the 12-step alcoholic thing. What's weird about that is I'm assuming it's a nonprofit program, but they keep hundreds of thousands, if not, I don't know if it's millions, but hundreds of thousands of people at least tied up into a program that's based in Jesus or whatever, and based in
A higher
the
power,
fact,
but yeah.
a higher power, whatever, and based in the fact that you're going to be an alcoholic for the rest of your
Which is
life,
true.
so you need to go to meetings twice a day.
Higher in your belief system than drinking.
Yeah, I just
But
don't.
it doesn't have to be a religion necessarily.
Right. Well,
and that's kind of my point with no fap. Like, don't turn no fap into a religion. It's like, oh yeah, like I
just get confused.
I'm not a masturbator. Do you know what's funny? If you watch like old timey movies, like I saw a comedy a couple days ago, and still kind of the same thing. Like, it's kind of known, like if you're jacking it all the time, it's kind of pathetic. Like if you look like in evolutionary terms, like you go to like the gorilla exhibit. Like usually I don't think they put multiple males in the same exhibit, but like let's say for example, they'll be like the alpha male who like bangs all the chicks, and like the other ones are like in the corner just like jacking their dicks. Like that's kind of pathetic. That's kind of lame. I know a lot of guys get on my ass for this, but guys, like as a man, you should not have a problem getting laid. If you have a problem getting laid, there is some work you need to do on yourself. It is not hard, and it is required for optimal male health, mental health, physical health, performance. Like it spills over into every area of your life. Don't turn it into an addiction. I've caught myself like that too, or like I'm like I've got a system down that works so well that I'm just going through the motions. I'm like, I'm not even in the mood. Like I don't even want to meet this girl, but it's like, oh, gotta get the notch, gotta get the lay. You don't want to do that either. Like now my goals have shifted to I want like depth in my relationships with girls. So, which is nice because back in the day, like I've always had girlfriends and stuff, but back in the day, like all that energy you put into like one relationship that's like kind of lackluster, that's lacking. You're like, okay, now like I have multiple relationships, and every single one of those is 10 times better than any prior relationship I had in the past when I was doing like the one-way or the two-way monogamy type model.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I've been monogamous since like over late 2021. So, you know, I'm dialed in apparently, whatever the fuck that means.
Locked in. Yep. You got that sure thing.
Yeah.
When you don't have to withhold the D because she's acting out of line. Dude, I remember when I first started hanging out with you, like you had a girlfriend at the house and you're like, my dude, what are you doing? Isn't your girl here? You're like, oh yeah, she pissed me off. I'm going to withhold the D. And I thought that was the most ludicrous thing at times, but I'm like, no, it's a pretty powerful tool as a guy. Like, because like, that's like for a lot of girls, that's really all they have. Like sex is always their trump card. But like when they don't have that power over you, it drives them nuts.
Well, you're
not going to get pussy. You're like, all right, well, you can leave. I'll get it from somewhere else. Like,
it's the golden spray paint, right? It's like making something look like gold. Like I don't do it like that anymore. I'm just so not interested in just a shallow level of shit anymore. I mean, I mean, of course, you're being a dude.
I literally just had a girl send me a nude right now as we're on this, but my iPhone is my camera, so I have my WhatsApp on the desktop. It's like, you received a view once message. All right.
WhatsApp titties.
Yeah, it's always timing. Like, well, that like, and I wouldn't fancy myself a dating coach. I'm just a nerd on the internet with a microphone. But I figured out how to systematize it. It works very well for me for very little effort. So I think that's kind of my personal value add. But on this channel, when I first started, I'd be like, hey guys, I'll run you through a live Tinder session. Like, nope, can't do that anymore because it's funny as I'm talking about these topics. Sure. Yeah. Might be able to, but yeah, as I'm talking about these topics, like some like, all right, here's how you take her from Tinder to WhatsApp or Instagram. If it's Instagram, then it's a lead nurture. If it's WhatsApp, go straight to logistics. So I followed live through the sequence. It was on someone else's channel too, which is even worse. Like, all right, let's go open to and like I have it set up now, like in my tabs on my computer. But like, all right, went from Tinder, let's take it over to WhatsApp, and then like first message like pussy pic. I'm just like, oh, can't do that live. YouTube doesn't like that.
You're gonna have to have you just have to have like a constant blur on your shit, and then you can unblur stuff as you go.
Oh, like those privacy screens they used to put on the monitors in the corporate world.
You're gonna have to put a privacy screen on your shit live. That's pretty fucking crazy.
It's like, whoa, yeah.
It's been a while since I needed a privacy.
It's a blossoming lotus. Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh no, fresh mildew spring morning. Okay, I'll quit while I'm ahead. Don't need to expand on that thought even more. Yeah. That's a sprouting lotus. So yeah, I think we talked about no fap question.
Yeah, no shit. I didn't even realize we were still on it until you just brought it back up again. Oh, we were.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I should probably text this girl and see what she's up to. But at one point, I wanted to get into the topic, and I think we can make this a nice segue. So again, yeah, with no fap, like as best practice, don't do it. Work on your game, try to get laid. Like if you need it for maintenance, like if it becomes like a thought in your head, like, oh my God, I haven't got my nut off in so long, and it's like impacting your day-to-day life. Okay, yeah, go to the bathroom and spill one out, but use your spank bank preferably. And it's been so long.
Don't take your phone with you. Just do it and don't take your phone with you.
I think the last time
try to do it the other way.
Yeah, I think the last time I fapped, or like the last few times, I was like at a doctor's office because I'm on TRT, so I like to make sure my swimmer count's low. It's never guaranteed. There's plenty of bodybuilders that can still get chicks pregnant, and they do that. But me is like an added layer of security. I like to know that, like, okay, statistically, like it's pretty low because they give the option on TRT, like if you want to retain your fertility or not, and if not, they can always restart you. They use HCG to do that. So your endocrinologist will ask you. But I'm like, I like to keep my swimmers low, and I've never had any issues. And thank God that makes the experience, with real live women a lot better. And usually they have some degree of protection too. But yeah, I think like literally when it comes time to fapping, for me, it's like, all right, for medical reasons, like I have to get this out and like, so a doctor can review the specimen or whatever. But like I always see like fapping, it's so seldom in the life of me that like it's kind of like sterile and medical and like just like there's no like,
it's super impersonal.
You know what I mean? There's like no sexual element to it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's super impersonal for something you would do to yourself.
But on that topic, yeah. So like as a best practice, I'd recommend like kill the porn addiction, don't do the fap thing, but don't make it a religion either. Yeah. And to segue it into, so I have people reach out to me all the time. Don't know why. Like some of the best performing videos on my channel, they're like my Fat to Fit series. Guys, you want to check those out? There's a playlist on my channel. So click on that, go to the playlist, and you can see my whole Fat to Fit series. I get really into depth with this stuff because I've done all these things to my body as I've used myself as a guinea pig over the course of almost 20 years, but I document everything because I'm a nerd and I like to, yeah, I'm a nerd, but I'm
You're a nerd, not a dork. There's a difference. You're a nerd, not a dork.
What is that difference? Yeah. Before
I would say that the dork is the fap guy. The dork is the fap guy who sits behind his computer and the computer dork, the quintessential, the 90s version of a computer dork. There's still a lot of those out there. I would call them at this point. I'm probably going to get canceled for this, and I love it. Crypto dorks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Yeah, like a crypto dork versus like a nerd. A nerd, you like to read and you educate yourself, and you like data analytics. I'm a big data analytics guy myself. I like tracking stuff. I have all kinds of apps.
Some of the top 10% group this morning wrote something like a new member. They introduced themselves like, yeah, we asked them different areas of their life. Like, hey, what's your lay count? What is your ideal relationship model? Where are you currently at? We define all these things. So then we have quantifiable metrics to know, like, are you making progress? Are you getting value out of this group? So one of the guys is like, oh, my lay count is such and such. He's like, I know it's weird. I track it. Like a lot of people think it's creepy. I'm like, dude, like, I think it's weird guys that don't track that shit. Like, it's the craziest thing. Like, I want to get better with women, but I don't track it. Like, well, then you don't want to get better. If you don't track it, then you have nothing to measure against. You're kind of spinning your wheels and going out.
Never really thought about it.
It doesn't make sense. That like if that's something that's important to you. For me, it was never important to me. It's just kind of like I was always curious in like just interpersonal relationships and human dynamics and psychology, sociology, and all these type things. I'm interested in the cultural elements. So I observe things in nature. I notice them. I'm like, well, and then you form like an internal hypothesis, and you go through the scientific method. You're like, oh, well, that's a new variable I need to track. And then the more you get into anything, the more metadata or the more tracking data you include in it, and you can start to make some really cool inferences and kind of like tighten your system up a bit. Not only getting laid, any area in your life, finance is a big one. Guys like, oh, I wish I was financially independent. I'm like, well, what does your budget look like? Dollars in versus dollar out monthly. They have no idea. I was like, well, okay, you're not serious about being financially free then. Like if you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. So for me, as far as the chick thing, like I think it was never important to me because I was always good at it, or always decent at it at least.
You're
It
always a
was just
natural. I
yeah.
get.
Well, I
I
mean,
kind of
whatever you
was
want to
too.
call that.
I kind of was too. I just had to get out of my own way. I always tell guys, especially guys like me that follow me, like your game's always ahead of you. So you'll notice something. You're like, oh my god, I'm banging like really hot chicks now. Like, oh, it's pretty easy. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they're not requiring a coffee date. They'll just come straight to the house. Like, oh, they'll match me on
Yeah,
Tinder
it's like
and
a
then just go
checkpoint.
right
It's
to my
almost like a
Instagram.
checkpoint, right? It's like it's like the
Yeah.
Oregon Trail checkpoint.
Yeah, the
You
results
move it-
get ahead of your
Yeah.
mindset, or like with the
Yeah,
fitness thing.
totally.
Like years ago, I used to always tell myself like, oh, I can't get a six pack. And then years ago, I was like, you know what? Damn it! In 90 days, I'm going to do a six pack. Guys, my Fat to Fit playlist. I have a video on DexaSkin, exactly how I set that up and the routine I used. And then once I got there, like in my head, I'm like, I was still that guy telling myself I can't get a six pack, but you look in the mirror, there's a six pack, but there's still that bit of disconnect or dissonance there. It wasn't until I went to a music festival for the first time, like shredded, like veins across my abs, and like 19-year-old chicks are lifting up their shirt and just pressing them against my chest. I'm like, oh, that's what happens. Or I go to an event because I've worked in marketing my whole career, so every now and then you'd have to go like hire actors or put together a shoot, or like you're filming an advertisement or something, and they're like, oh, hey, why don't you just do it? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you want me to be an extra or something? Like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And they're like, no, like we want you to like be the face of this thing, of this brand, this campaign. You're like, oh yeah, I'm fit now. Like when you're fit, people with cameras want to take pictures of you. Like, but your progress always gets ahead of your internal mental state, which at least for me, I don't know if that resonates.
I think that's actually I think that can be considered a massively solid advantage though, because if you think about it, if you're the type of person that thought you were ahead of where you're actually at, then you would never actually get anywhere because you'd just be dragging yourself into the abyss, right? So like somebody who's and there can be a degree of like humble for that, or there can be a degree of, I mean, you just maybe it's lack of ego. Maybe you get so far along a path that you don't even realize that you're there or whatever. I don't remember the last time that's happened to me. Maybe looking in the mirror or something like that after losing a bunch of weight is probably the closest thing that I could really say, or somebody telling me, wow, you look really good, and you're like, what you mean? I'm still, I'm still fat, whatever, but the reality is you're just not. And I forget where I was going with that.
Yeah,
Totally
that's an interject. Yeah, that's an interject there. I get this all the time. Like I got to the point where even when I was fat, I was never ugly, or I wouldn't say I was. And I remember looking in the mirror, like society lies to you. So like I grew up in the 90s, people would always like say bullshit like, oh, you're not fat, you're just big boned, which I am. I have the DEXA scan results. I have a lot of bone mineral content. I've got a lot of bone mass on me compared to average people at my stature and my height. Yeah. So that's not entirely untrue, where they'd be like, oh, you got to grow out before you grow up, like all this nonsense. And but I remember it was about the time I was in high school when I like wanted to try to get prom dates, or got interested in girls, and like okay, society lies to you, but reality doesn't lie to you. So you're like, oh, society tells me like you're healthy or you're attractive at any weight. That doesn't work for men. Also doesn't work for women either, but they lie to women. I love how society lies to women, and then it's men's problems. Like, no, it's a bunch of fucking gay guys and fucking other women that lie to women. Like, no one likes fat chicks, and no chicks like fat guys either. They like guys that are bigger sometimes, because you got kind of that like cuddly aspect,
the protection vibe.
Or it also means like, like when you get into a relationship, you can let yourself go a bit, but and that's because they kind of like want to keep you off the market or not in the game. But they used to always lie to me. They're like, oh yeah, you can be attractive in any size. But I remember looking in the mirror and being like, well, like I don't have ugly features, but like I need to fix this fat shit pretty quick. And then all of a sudden you get to the point where like, people notice the progress, maybe not while you do it. It's people that haven't seen you for a while. Like, dude, like, wow, you look like a whole different person. Oh my God, what'd you do? And it makes you feel pretty good. And then it got to the point where people started telling me like the opposite sex, like, hey, you're really attractive. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I didn't believe it at first. And then you heard it so much, you're like, okay, well, maybe there's something to it. And then you don't want to let it get to your head. So then I tried to be humble to the point where like, now that I think sometimes the main point I was getting at, I get accused like, in my head, I'm trying to be humble. They're like, oh wow, you're really attracted to this girl earlier. It's like, oh my, they love non-brown eyes in these countries where like 99% of people have brown eyes. Like, oh my God, your green eyes. Like, oh, they're so amazing. Wow, they're so beautiful. And then you're like, oh yeah, cool, thanks. And the chick's like, oh, that's it. I'm like, and then I'm like, well, I get told that so much, like I don't really take it as a compliment anymore. It's like, oh, you're arrogant. I'm like, I'm just being honest. Like I used to not get those comments. Now I get them daily. So I just assume it's true.
Right. I get them about my dimples.
They could be lying to me like they did when I was a fat kid in school. Like, oh yeah, no, you're good. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like sweating walking up a flight of stairs. And like, I ask a girl to go to prom and like, not only does she say no, but her whole body recoils like you? Oh, gross. Yeah. Like, oh, I don't like it when women respond to me in that way.
What's interesting too, of like the other side of it is like you get sometimes you get like the negative feedback from guys, right? Like I wasn't a popular kid, so it was like I would get like the negative feedback, like, oh, you're this or that. You know, I don't even want to repeat half the shit. I don't even think I can repeat half the shit that they would say to me. But then like you would have like a great response from women or girls. I mean, at that time I was like 14 or 15. So like that was like a major like weird thing for me.
My bad. Had to take a bio break.
Oh no,
I swear every time I do it, I'm like mid piss.
My shit like stalled for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was dead air because
No, it was a little dead air. I stopped talking because my fucking computer did some weird shit.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was on the radio in high school, which is the whole reason I got into marketing. So they were always so big on like no dead air. Like more than 4 seconds, people will tune out usually. Like this was the radio back in the 90s and early 2000s, but it's just beat in my brain like no dead air, no dead air. And when I go on Rich's streams, like people in the comments like, God, Jaron always has to interject. I'm like, well, if I don't talk, there's no conversation going. Like I don't like dead air. It's just not good broadcast.
I didn't have anything to say to myself. We'll just put it that way. That's funny.
Yeah, we can pop some of these comments here in a second, but
do that.
Yeah, on the humility topic, guys, if you're on your fitness journey and like you're starting to get near your goals, these things will start to resonate with you more. Like if you're just starting out, like I understand. I get people that reach out to me all the time that like, oh, you're full of shit or that doesn't happen. I'm like, well, yeah, it does. Like it really does.
What are you referencing? Are you talking about pussy?
No, like just in terms of like when you start hitting your fitness goals, the way people start responding to you, you'll notice like I mean, it's kind of like a no duh. Like if you're walking around a music festival or like boat races in my hometown or some outdoor event and you take your shirt off and you're a big fat slob, you can still have a good personality and be a fun guy to hang out with and like, oh yeah, it's like my brother, unless you like got really good game. There are fat guys that can get laid, but when you're yeah, right. But when you get to the point where they're like, oh my God, like who the hell is that guy? Like, fuck, that guy's hot. Then you don't really need game. Like you just need to not be a weirdo. Well, you do. You need to learn how to move things forward and escalate. And like logistics is a big thing where a lot of guys screw up, but it makes it a lot easier when you're just attractive as a person in general. No one tells the fucking truth to guys or girls. Like girls get spoon fed lies, like bullshit lies all the time, way more than guys do. I think a lot of guys just kind of give up. They're just going, oh yeah, they just kind of let life take the lead and they're not in the driver's seat of their own existence. And, they kind of get complacent or lazy or sloppy. But when you get to the point, like guys, when you hit your fitness goals and then you'll get to that point where you're like, oh, I feel pretty good. And then like, what's next? Well, it's just a
massive quality bump that's accidental. Like, well, you were going back to your point. You just like, you walk into this shit and you're like, whoa, I'm there. Like, that's cool. It's especially coming off of being fat, because I've done it like 3 times, right? At 19, at 24, and at now 33. It's like you hit a different level and you don't even realize it with whatever with people respond, just people in general. It's not even about girls.
In general,
like,
not even the dating thing.
Sales opportunities.
It helps with the girls. Like when I was in Miami, I think I got like 14 phone numbers over the course of like 2.5, 3 days. And I wasn't like I never do dedicated day game sessions. I would never fancy myself
That's
a day
weird.
gamer, but I get a few numbers a
even know that was
week
a thing.
just out and about my daily life. I catch someone giving me eyes, and then I go up and talk to them. And like I said, like when I was a fat kid, and you have to be honest with yourself. When I looked in the mirror, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like I'm getting there. Like, oh, I'm gassed going up a single flight of stairs. I should probably do something about this. Oh, I asked this girl out, and she was disgusted by the fact that I would even think that was that I had an opportunity there. Now, like the girls that I approached in Miami, like I didn't get shot down a single time for a number. And if I weren't there with the guys for the event, probably would have done pretty well. Before I went to El Salvador, I spent 3 months in Miami, and I think I knocked off like 18 girls while I was there. And that was not even my focus. It's just when you're out and about, and there's a lot of attractive guys in these types of cities. So you also have to develop some social skills. Don't be a weirdo. There's a lot of hot guys out there that girls are like, what the fuck is that guy? And I'm like, that guy's weird. What's up with that dude? But when you're comfortable in your own skin, which it does take some time to get used to, once you end up getting really fit or like hit your fitness goal or like the optimal version of yourself, it takes some adjustment, like to reform that identity. Like, oh yeah, I'm not a fat slob anymore. Like, oh, I'm not an alcoholic anymore. Like, I'm not socially awkward or weird anymore. All right, cool. People respond to this, but the juxtaposition between when I was the fat kid, I'm like, hey, do you want to go to prom with me? Like, oh, ew, you, to like approaching hot chicks in Miami. Like, not only are they not annoyed by the fact I'm approaching them, but they're thrilled. They're like, whoa, oh my God, you speak Spanish? Like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's like, I caught you playing the eye game with me. Like, I'll call them. I'm also a realist. So I observe things in real time and I just throw it out there. Like, they call it like like if you're writing like a screenplay or something, like breaking down the fourth wall. I break down the fourth wall all the time. I was like, and I do a little finger thing. It's like, I saw you looking at me over there. No, like, that's fun. That's really fun. It makes game a lot easier when you know that not only is she going to not turn you down, but she's going to be thrilled by the fact you're asking her out. It makes things a lot easier.
Well, that goes back to the fact that just being somebody of quality is not that hard these days. Because the fucking it's just like wealth versus
there is
poverty,
no bar,
right?
The bar's buried.
It's like wealth versus poverty. Like if you get kind of rich, it's highly likely that you're going to be extremely rich unless you're terrible with money, right? So,
oh, dude, I'm doing well financially compared to like 99% of people on the planet, and I feel like a piece of shit because I'm not doing as well as the guys I hang out with now. I know I'm going to get there, but like I've been talking to you this last week. I was like, God, I'm doing all this work and I'm not there yet. Brutal, but like, dude. I analyze my finances at the end of every month. I'm like, no, I'm still doing well. Like I've entirely replaced my like, corporate income.
Freaking out day to day.
Myself.
Like, all right.
And I did well in the corporate world. I'm like, all right. But it's like, no. I need more return for my effort. But again, kind of like the weight loss thing.
But it compounds though.
There's a lag time.
Yeah, well, it compounds over time. So
for me, my life is never linear. It's not like, okay, I put in X amount of effort today, I get Y result tomorrow. It's like X amount of effort, more effort, more effort, more effort, nothing for could be 90 days, could be 6 months, could be 18 months, could be years down the road. And then one day you wake up and then you get that return all at once. You're like, oh, whoa, oh my God. And then you're not ready for it.
Exercise too. You wake up one day and you're like, holy crap. And you're like living that life that you were. Yeah, that happened with me in this situation. Really, it's like, oh no, I sit in my. I'm flexible enough now because I'm not a fucking fat ass to cross applesauce in my office chair. Yeah, in my office chair. It's 6'2", so that's pretty interesting. But I totally forgot what I was gonna say. Awesome, cool, Steve. Let's move on.
All right, sounds good.
Fucking moron.
Fit life is a good life. I definitely agree. Put the cookies and brownies down, men. Pick up weights and cardio. Yeah,
I think that's true, but that's actually also pretty toxic at the same time. Like you don't have to put down the cookies and brownies all the time. You can eat it.
It's going back to like you don't want to get into those that negative energy where you're like, oh my God, I'm craving a brownie. I'm craving a brownie. It's like, oh, you piece of shit, you fat ass. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like that internal dialogue. Like, oh, I can't. Now, if you're doing it, like if you're eating cookies and brownies every single day, which trust me, I can do that and still be reasonably in shape, but I'm not at the point where I want to be. But I do a lot of cookies and brownies, but I make my own or I buy them from a healthy bakery, like keto brownies. Like those are good. Those are hella good. It's just dark.
Alarm or mine?
No, I think it's on your end. Mine was earlier. We had an earthquake drill today, so like sirens and going off all over and helicopters flying around. Yeah. It's funny here in Mexico, whenever we have an earthquake drill scheduled, we have an earthquake like right before it. So we had an earthquake last night. on September 19th, which is the anniversary of like the big quake in 85, and they had another one on that same date in 2017. So they're like, all right, so September 19th is like an earthquake drill day. We had 2 that day. We had a real big one. There was like a 7.6, I think. It shook the shit out of my place. I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God. I thought my building, I'm on the top floor. I thought the building was going to go over and I was going to like die on top of the Walmart down here below me. It's like, oh, that would suck.
But I went through one in Tokyo when I lived there, and I lived on the 5th floor, and I remember it was like 6, not quite 6 in them, 5:30, 5:45. Sun was coming, like peeking over the horizon, and I woke up like this, and I fell out of my bed because you can't really like get your legs underneath you like that. And we actually had one here in Kansas. I was sitting in this big Zach chair, and I thought that like my stomach was gurgling, but it lasted like 20 seconds or 30 seconds.
Yeah,
was
ours. Yeah, it was like 20 seconds, but it seems like an eternity, and it shakes the shit out of you, and your adrenaline is going for the rest of the day.
Super weird.
I remember looking up, people in like earthquake zones. It's fairly common that you're like physiologically off after that.
It takes like a day to get back together.
Yeah, it screws up your equilibrium too. It's funny here in Mexico City, like how everyone here is like an expert on earthquakes. Like, well, you have this type of movement, and then you have this type of movement, and like there's all different words in Spanish.
How the plates collide.
I don't even know them in English. But like the different waveforms, and then like I'm sure anyone that studies like Aztec history, like Mexico City is built on like a dried up lake bed. So if you're on the dried up lake bed, then you're going to get it really bad. But if you're right outside of it, I'm like 2 blocks right where it cuts off. So it's like I don't get it as bad. If the earthquake is under 6 on the Richter scale, I don't even feel it here. Last night's was 5.6. I get texts from people. It's like, oh my God, we saw on the news there's an earthquake. I'm like, I'm here watching TV. I don't feel a goddamn thing. You hear the sirens go off or whatever, but if I don't feel it, I'm not going to evacuate. Yeah. But in September, we had the 7.6 earthquake. I'm like, I got to get out of this building now because these buildings fall over.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I'm in a new building, and it's actually outfitted with same as they do in like California buildings. Because again, being a nerd, it has its benefits. Before I signed the year-long lease, I'm like, take me and show me how this thing is outfitted so it doesn't fall over in the event of an earthquake. Not in the event of an earthquake. There will be earthquakes here.
They have that counterbalance ball in the middle of the building, right?
Yeah, I think the one I saw, there's like a camera's fucked up. There's like a concave like pendulum or something, so the building sways with it rather than trying to stand resistant.
Asia too.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of earthquakes over there.
Yeah, it's the same way in California. And then before I rented here, they sent me like a video on YouTube and explained the system they use. I'm like, oh man, it looks good to me.
That's dope. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a building engineer at all.
Yeah, I'm on the highest floor, and like all this, you're sitting here, and all of a sudden, like you're going like this, and you're like, whoa, and then it stops, and then like a minute later, you get these waves, and you're like, oh, okay, well, what the hell? Like, all right, cool.
Better than these waves, right?
Yeah, it's like, and I always say there's going back to the fitness topic. There's 2 types of bodies. There's bodies that move gracefully through space. So like figure skaters, gymnasts, like extreme sports people, like guys that can go off like motorcycle jumps and clear like 12 buses. There's those types of people. And then there's bodies that do best when they're firmly planted on the ground, but can manipulate other objects through space. I'm the second type of body. So like roller coasters, love them to death, but it shakes the shit out of me. So after an earthquake, I'm just like, like it feels like you're drunk or like, I don't know.
For a little bit, you do kind of get, it's almost like you get like a bug bite you're mildly allergic to. You kind of have that like weird headspace.
Oh yeah. As the histamine reaction starts to ramp up.
Like a pile of fire ants bite you in the ankle and you get kind of dizzy for like 20 minutes afterwards, like 30 minutes.
I've had that happen. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I living in Florida. I got out to fix a tire, and there was a whole fucking anthill of them, and got them up my left leg, and I was like dizzy the rest of the day. Sucked.
Oh, when I was a kid, I think I was like 12. I was mowing the lawn at my dad's house. He lives out in the country in Texas, outside of Fort Worth. And there's like the little like air conditioning unit, and there's like a door on the outside of the house. So I was mowing the lawn, and I saw some like yellow jackets, like got the spray or whatever, and went to open it up, and they just swarmed me. I got like 12 stings on the back of my head. It swelled all up, and oh my God, it like literally it felt like I was on fire. Like it felt like I was getting burned alive. It hurt so bad. I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah, I've had that. I had that open up an old truck door. They were
wait till nighttime.
Yeah, well, they were hiding behind the rear view, the side mirror, and I opened up the truck door, and like I had a bunch, and they bit me like on the side of my neck and inside my ear and shit. So I had it like my head was like all blown up, which was really weird because I'm not allergic to bee stings like that.
One thing I've noticed when I get leaner, fat I think kind of acts as an insulator. So these last couple of days I've been really cold, and like I look at the temperature, it's the same. Like it's pretty temperate climate all year
Fucking
round here.
84 outside.
Yeah, like it doesn't get super cold here, but God, I've been freezing in my own house. I'm like, well, what the fuck? But I think I got to that body fat percentage, whatever that is, to where like I have not as much insulation as I normally do. And then also I noticed that when I'm leaner, my threshold to pain, like I feel I'm a lot more sensitive to the touch. So like I feel pain more, and then I have to do like mental activities. So like, okay, it's just it's like, I view like your nervous system like a sensor on a car. So like, yep, I know someone's doing something to me and my brain is registering it as pain, but you can mentally block it out to where it doesn't affect you. But at first, like I go to the spa and get like the being on TRT, like sometimes you have to look at your red blood cell count, your RBC. So for me, like I just do I do a plasma or blood facial every two months. They're super cheap here. It's like what all the celebrities in the U.S. do for anti-aging and stuff, and it helps my red blood cell count type thing. So like the minute they put that dermapen on your forehead and it, like those first few seconds, like your brain registers it like, oh my God, like that's a ton of pain. And you feel that sensation a lot more when you're leaner than when you're fat. But again, you can block that out, and then you're just like, all right, like I understand there's pain there, but it's supposed to be there. This is intentional. It's not like I'm burning myself, and it's like alert. Like I'm well aware there's an EpiPen or not an EpiPen, a dermapen or a microdermabrasion pen on my face right now. And but yeah, with less body fat, you do feel sensations and the sensation of pain a lot more, which is interesting.
I notice that when I don't sleep well, when I don't sleep long enough and well, I tend to have a little bit more anxiety now, oddly enough. But I can tell myself, hey, you didn't sleep enough. You're gonna have to work through it. Have some caffeine, go for a walk, you'll be fine. And I generally am.
I still have to get this shit done today. Like, well, I feel kind of off. It's going to suck. But like once you get deep into your work, then you kind of forget all about it. For those who've been following me for a while, I grew up on a farm in eastern Washington State, close to where Steve grew up, just down the road, down the river. And I remember one of the buddies we had in the house, there's a couple of times like, oh, I'm really depressed. What do I do? And I think he called me one time years ago. He was in Seattle. He was on the west side, and it's like, oh man, I'm thinking of ending it all and da-da-da. I was like, well, fucking get home. I'll get you a job. And like, my family's really cool like that. Like there's always work on a farm. So like they'll put you to work. And I remember my grandpa telling me one time, he's like, when you're doing like intensive physical labor, like the middle of harvest, he's like, you don't have time to get depressed. Like your depression just goes away. And
you don't feel anything.
That is true. Like when I'm in harvest, like it's just go. I get home and then like take your boots off. Like maybe have the energy to take a shower, turns the whole bathtub basin black, and then like literally as I sit down on the couch, just instantly fall asleep. Like there's no time for depression when you're just
That's a really interesting point, actually, and like we could deep dive further into that because
we can segue into fitness. Like Rich Cooper says, like, hey, you're depressed, pick up heavy shit and put it down. See if that doesn't help you out a little bit.
Get busy, just be busy. Like at the end of the day, you have to be so busy, and that's like. Sometimes I fell into, like, when I was drinking a lot, at least, I would fall into that specifically because I had my business and stuff and it was fine. Like I was making plenty of money, but I didn't have a purpose. Like the money was just kind of there to entertain me and keep a roof over my head. It wasn't like I had a goal or anything behind it. And once I quit, it was like, oh, fuck. All that money that I wasted trying to entertain myself because I was depressed or whatever, for whatever reason, I could have used to build something else. And anyways, that's a really interesting topic.
I mean, we should probably we could do a stream on like the benefits of not being fat or benefits of being fit, but there's so many, it's so hard to list them all. But that's another one. Like generally, when you're fitter, you have a better mood. Although my mood's been kind of off lately. I've been talking to you offline about that. We did a stream I think last week or the week before for that. But there's probably a couple reasons why. And when it comes to depression, I was asking myself this morning, like, it's like, Jaron, what the fuck? Like your life's amazing. Like why do you feel off? Like anything that I thought it was, like, okay, like reduce the caffeine consumption later in the afternoon. Like I'm not doing any coffee anymore, maybe a cup of Diet Coke. Like stop smoking weed before bed. Takes a couple days, you'll have a bit of a come down, but usually by day 2 or 3, you feel back, you feel back at normal. Up the gym thing, eat super clean, the high nutrient dense foods, and then, but like you feel a little bit better, but like I still kind of felt off my core. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, am I depressed? But mainstream society doesn't use the correct definition for depression. They associate depression with sadness or melancholy. Like, woe is me. Like, that's not the way I experience the world. What depression is to me, and I used to be a big fan of Adam Carolla growing up on the West Coast. I did Loveline every night. It was syndicated all across the West Coast. He was one of the OGs for like the podcast format way back in the day. He had his own show in LA that was syndicated for a while, like a morning show. So I was really into him. This was pre-internet, so like, where are you going to get this kind of information? They did have these types of guys on the radio back in the day. Adam Carolla was a good one. Tom Likas was a good one. Look at some of those old videos. You'd be like, oh wow, these guys are like way ahead of the curve. But Adam Carolla used to always say, like, depression is literally just like a lack of movement. And I'm really into language too, because I speak other languages. But so I'm kind of a nerd for I'm also dyslexic, or so I'm also a nerd for semantics.
I'm also a dern. I'm also a dern for semantics.
Yeah, or syntax, or etymology. I'm really huge into that stuff. It's like depression, like it literally means just like kind of lack of movement. Like when you're accelerating a car, okay, you want to slow down. What do? You depress the gas pedal. So I kind of look at it that way. Like, okay, I'm moving in my physical world, but like metaphorically, or just like progress in my life is not where I want it to be. It's not a linear effect. It's not like, as I mentioned earlier, okay, I do this today, I'm gonna get the result tomorrow. For me, it's like, all right, do this, get the system in place. Okay, figure out, new obstacle. And then all of a sudden you get that secret sauce down. Like I talk about, like my inbound dating funnel, which I'm going to do a course on that here probably before the summertime. So definitely hit me up Instagram at Jaron Scott if you're interested in that. Give me FAQs, questions you have, and I'll incorporate that into the initial course material for the first launch, the first release. But the depression thing, it literally means like lack of movement in your life. And the way my systems or my structures work, it's like, okay, you try these new variables and you try this and you try that. And then all of a sudden, like, it just all comes together. You get it, and then just boom, like results are overnight. And again, I'll allude to Rich Cooper. He'll say things like, you hear guys all the time, they think success stories happen overnight, but they don't. What people don't see is like the years of effort put into it. And then all of a sudden, like, you get that one last little detail right. It's like, boom. Good example is like you're restoring in any sort of system. I'm a systems theory guy, but for like car guys in here, something's wrong with your car, or like that check engine light goes on. You're like, oh god, and they're like, oh, hopefully it's just a sensor. Like maybe my door's ajar, maybe like my gas cap,
Right.
like, it's off, or like something minor. It'll still be like a $200 fix for even like a little
Right.
sensor. But like you're not gonna like drop your transmission like maybe on older cars, but doesn't matter what it is. If all of the components of the system aren't in place, then you're not going to get optimal performance out of it. So I kind of view life like that. Like I'm in a transition phase of my life right now where like, okay, the previous level I aspired to achieve, I had not only got there a while ago, but now I'm at like the top upper tier echelon of that level. But now there's a new level I'm looking towards. And it's like, okay, so like I do the day-to-day maintenance to maintain where I'm at now, but I'm trying to configure things to get to that next level. And it's not like it's not like I'm gonna put in, like, let's do on a numerical system. Like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, I put in an effort of 1 today and 1 tomorrow and 1 the next day, and then I get 3 out. Like, no, I'm gonna put in like an effort of 10 every day, and then all of a sudden, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, whenever, it's like boom, like I get a return that's like 1,000-fold. You're like, oh, like all of a sudden it just like hoists you, or like catapults you into that next level.
That segues from the fitness
I think
thing,
that's
too.
why my mood's been off, because I'm like, I'm not seeing immediate impact in like on my maintenance. Yes, like it's just maintain, but I figured these things out years ago. But to get to that next level, it's like got to effort. Who knows how long? And then like boom, all of a sudden you're there. You're like, oh, and like I said earlier, your game gets ahead of you in any area of life. You're like, oh, I'm that guy now. Like,
Well,
when did
was
that
a
happen?
conversation I had with you. Like, but it's like I'll just the basis of it, right? Is like,
Yeah, you've dropped
losing
50
weight.
pounds. Like you've dropped a small child off your frame.
yeah, 5th grader, basically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
And-
I was obese as a kid, so I was 100 pounds when I was 8 years old. But yeah, a
but
normal
like,
5th grader.
But you don't think about it like that. It's like that quarter of a pound, that 0.1 pounds per day, or that 0.2, or whatever that number is that you have. It's like it's not even a matter of seeing that progress, because that annoys you. Like, that annoyed me. Like, the first, I can remember almost to the day 51 days. After 51 days of not drinking, 51 days of being on a diet, I had lost like 8 pounds total. That was nothing, right? To me, that was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Day 61.
Yeah, you're barely moving the needle.
Right, but day 61, I was 12 or 13 or 14 pounds down, because I had taken that all that stuff for a couple of months, and my body was like, "Oh, okay, this is what we're doing now." So now my body's like, "Oh, so I don't have to keep all this extra shit to like protect you from anything, because we're not doing that anymore. So I'll go ahead and just let it go. Like, you can piss it out, or you can burn the energy or whatever."
Called the whoosh effect. And when I tracked my weight loss,
I lost 4
put it on
pounds
the
in 2
screen
days.
before.
It was the weirdest thing. It was
Yeah,
day
actually,
54 to 56. I lost 4 pounds.
Go ahead and stay on that point real quick, and I'll pull it
Yeah.
up. I'll show people exactly what that looks like, because I'm
Yeah.
assuming, guys, if you watch every 3-hour stream I do, you have seen this before. But I look at the metrics, and most people don't.
I don't even watch every 3-hour stream you do, and I'm the fucking co-host of it.
I've started watching them.
I watched the first like 3, and then when I realized that I have no patience to be a video editor, I kind of was like, I need to hire somebody for that shit.
Yeah, I still got to find someone good to do that stuff that can do it in bulk. And I've hired, like I think last August, I hired a guy in India to do it. And like they weren't even taking my content. It was just like random bullshit stuff. But the way, like most people in this world are stupid. So even the bullshit that he put up there, like an 8-second clip that had nothing to do with my channel, was like one of the best performing videos. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that, most mainstream audiences are like they're just not wired the way I am or like we are. It is what it is. So yeah,
how about that Stanley Cup? How about that Stanley Cup?
You've been talking to me about it, but I haven't been watching it.
Hockey now. It's the weirdest thing. I love hockey so much.
I like watching it in real life. To me, that's like one of the most, like, yeah, MMA, boxing, like any fighting sports. Yeah, those are definitely masculine sports. But hockey, it's like combine the violence and the cardio and like the fact that you have to be able to skate well. I was always terrible at skating. Again, second type of body. I don't move gracefully through space. I move other things through space very efficiently. Yeah. But hockey,
handling
I'm like,
a puck
like,
while going 30 miles an hour across the ice while another grown man's trying to fucking run you over. Didn't understand it for like the first 2 games I watched it, and then something clicked in my brain, and I was like, "Whoa, look at that play!" I just watched them set that up. That was weird.
Yeah, is some crazy Russian who's like off-season meal plan is literally just vodka and depression,
vodka and
coming
steak.
at you.
Yeah,
like,
it's fucking dope. Hockey's the last of the Mohicans as far as physical sports, though. I mean, if you think about it,
I don't know shit about it because I could never play it. I've never learned how to skate.
Fucking super violent, and I love it. It's the only sport where you can get into a straight fucking fist fight. You can get into a straight fist fight and get 2 minutes for it. I love that.
And the refs back off like, yeah, no, let him go.
It's the most. It's a crazy, yeah. Like, besides obviously MMA, because that's clearly what they do. But like, it's the only sport where you have a goal. I mean, it's effectively basketball for mostly white people, right? Like,
I love when the goalies get into it. Oh, it's so good talking shit across the ice and they skate out.
For sure. Dude, I watched a guy fucking level this dude straight. Like, guy was coming across the ice at like probably 20, whatever, however fast you can get across ice, right? And this guy just bodied him. Just fucking head hits the ground. It was I think it was an Islander.
And you go a lot faster than running, so like I don't know what the miles per hour, kilometers per hour is, but like you get some momentum behind you, and you get like a lot of mass. It's just general physics, guys. You get all that mass movement at once, and then boom, it hits you. Like, oh my god!
And then a puck with an exit velocity is 70 miles an hour. You got a guy that looks like a gladiator killer with a giant.
Those things hurt too. Those are way harder than other sports balls.
Yeah, it's like a chew can with concrete in it.
yeah, it really is.
But yeah, I got into that the other day. I decided I wanted to start betting on hockey, so I was like, fuck, I got to learn this game. I threw a buck on a parlay just to kind of be interested in it to see what it did, and I hit like 4 legs of it, obviously luck, and didn't understand any of the terminology, any of the plays, any of the anything, and now I'm kind of obsessed, believe it or not. So right now I have like on my phone while we're sitting here, I have the games that are up today. The Carolina Hurricanes are up on the New York Islanders 1-0 early in the first.
Nice.
I
hear Storm rolling in.
Under 4.5, so they can't score more than 4 goals. based on that. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, you might have to put it on tonight. I got my for when I plan my perfect day. There's certain things I like to do in a day. Got that out of the way earlier this afternoon, so tonight might just be a chill day. We can always crash band the show.
I just have.
You've been doing.
I can't hear you. You sound like you're underwater.
What's up?
Oh, you sounded like you were underwater.
Oh, huh.
That was
Yeah,
weird.
it's starting to rain, so I don't know if internet's going to screw up at one point. It feels like my house is haunted because I'm on the highest floor of my building, and I keep the windows open so the doors start clacking around and stuff, which is
That's
good.
fine.
Because if my house was really haunted, I wouldn't know any better. It's like, it's just the wind blowing the door.
It might be. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
You got a roommate.
Haunted,
Got a
yeah, right.
non-paying fucking roommate. What a joy.
Oh, that asshole. So real quick, guys, the whoosh effect in weight loss.
That is. Yeah, there you go.
So it kind of looks like this. So at one point I tracked out, based on what my diet, based on if I fit my diet perfectly, what that trend line looks like, weighing in every day under similar conditions. So usually first thing in the morning fasted after a night of sleep, that's when I'd weighed in. But you'll see that like the weight loss though, so the blue is the ideal trend line. The green is the actual weight loss. Well, you'll see like it'll peak and then it goes way down way fast. So that's where when Lee asked me earlier at the top of the stream, like, hey, what does your protocol look like? Well, that's what it looks like in real life with like the carb cycling, calorie cycling, things like that. It's like, okay, maybe I'll have a refeed day. Well, obviously I'm replenishing glycogen stores. I'm going to hold some water. So I'll be up like, let's say even number. Let's say yesterday I was 200 pounds. And I'm like, okay. And then today is a day where, I'm going to train a little heavier. I'm going to eat some more carbs, maybe even go into slight surplus. Well, tomorrow I'm 206 pounds. It's like, oh, well, hey, what the hell? And a lot of people don't realize that weight loss is not linear. Kind of like I was just saying earlier, like life isn't linear either. You grind, you go. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, I go from like 206 pounds to like 198 pounds. Well, maybe like day to day, I lost, and I can track it on here. I lost like maybe half a pound, 3/4 pounds, even a pound if I'm like do like a full fasting day of pure body fat. But a lot of it's just water too. So like weight loss looks like kind of a whoosh effect. And you'll see as I got leaner, there's less discrepancy there because I don't have a lot of fat or liquid to lose anymore. Like your body starts to do different things when you get leaner, but when you start off pretty heavy, like, yeah, you can fluctuate greatly from day to day, but you'll see like some of these initial peaks there. Well, once I had that big peak, yeah, I had another peak a few days later. Like I think I was doing carb cycling every 3.5 days. I think I had like 1 or 2 refeed days in there, 2 fat flush days in there. I wasn't doing full day fasting at this point yet as part of my fitness toolkit, but there'd be days where I go over like, oh shit, I should be here where that blue trend line is. I'm way over that. And then 3 days later, I'm way below that. And I have another peak a couple days later, but I don't go as high. The peaks are lower at every point and the lows are lower at every point. So that's kind of what weight loss looks like. I believe when I did keyword research, I was going to do a video on it years ago. It's called the whoosh effect. There's not a lot of literature or information around it. Ergo, a lot of people aren't looking for it, but I believe that's what it's called, where you're like, okay, like what the hell? I'm gaining weight, but my diet's on point. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, you just release it all.
Yeah, that's a really good, I mean, anybody who's ever lost any weight ever is going to have a decent idea of this. Like perfect example of this is on Sunday. I had whatever the fuck I wanted to eat because it was Sunday. And I was like, I think when I went into Sunday, I was like 229.8, 230 pounds flat. I woke up Monday morning, 233. Okay. That's not ideal, but I know because of my body that I whoosh back and forth 5 pounds every other day to some degree, unless I'm like 100% me and my water, like, because your hydration's got to be dialed in and everything, so you don't retain a bunch of water that you have in your body because your body thinks you're fucking not gonna get water for the next 3 days or something. So I don't understand dry fasting specifically, but like, but then now I'm like, I'm just under 229, like, and that's 2 days later. So you just kind of got to deal with the ebbs and flows. Like, first off, unless you have a healthy relationship with the scale, stop looking at it every fucking day. Like, don't do that because it's torture. I do it to myself.
Unless you're tracking. When I filled out the spreadsheet, like, again, I had that mindset, like, I'll never have a 6-pack because I used to be fat. And I was like, okay, I need to get really dialed into the details and figure out this process. But once you have the process in front of your face, well, then you internalize it. It's up there in your head, and then you just execute it again. I think that I've been weighing myself weekly now. but I spent 2 years without weighing myself because
That's crazy.
like
I
like
couldn't
you
even
said, it's
imagine.
kind of unhealthy, but like you get to the point where like you can feel how fit you are. Like your body
That's true.
knows.
I wouldn't need to like now that I've gotten to a point where I'm way within a acceptable and healthy range and blood pressure's good and like at my body fat's probably around 17%, 18% I would say right now realistically. But now that I've gotten kind of in that space where I'm like, okay, well the 10 pounds is gonna the 10 more pounds that I want to take off is going to come off. Like it just will inevitably because I don't eat fucking 5,000 calories a day. But I do still eat what I want when I want to eat it. But most of the time, I want to eat what I'm eating in the first place, right? Like the people think that they got to torture themselves to do this, but I can't. I need to go back to what I was saying because I was just about to go off on a massive tangent.
Oh, you go tangential like I do? No, dude, you can go.
Oh yeah, dude, yeah.
I'll go refill my soda. Yeah, go on your tangent.
But yeah, but like I could throw the scale away now and wouldn't even have to really fuck with it anymore. So long as I looked better in the mirror to myself, because all of those basic health markers that I have or that I operate under are in general within a range, right? So I told myself I'm 229 now, that I'm going to get to 215, 216 is kind of the sweet spot. 218 was where I started, but I kind of adjusted it with the diet. So once I get myself to there, then I'm going to reassess my goals as far as fitness, what I'm going to be looking to do, whether I'm going to do the bodybuilding thing, or whether I'm going to do the CrossFit thing, or whether I'm going to go and eat myself back up while lifting heavy weights for no reason, because to me, there's no reason for me to do that. I'm not a professional athlete of any kind, I guess, yet, if I want to say that. But I do believe that you do need to have some version of a goal for yourself, whether it's a goal weight or a goal look, or you want to fit in your clothes better, or you want to just do whatever. Like
for me, I had an image in my head when I was like, I want to get a six pack just to see if I can do it and figure out how to do it. I knew I could do it. I had to reframe that internal voice like, oh, you can't do it. But it wasn't like, for me, it was more of like an image I had in my head and I held firmly, and then a feeling. So for me, it was, okay, when I was in Texas at the time, but like when I moved back to San Diego, like I want to live on the beach. I want to be walking along the boardwalk and be like that guy. Like I want to look like that, like classical California guy. Doesn't mean I want to do it forever. Maybe I'm not that person. I think to a degree, I have incorporated a bit of that person into me. But then all of a sudden, like one day, I was walking down the boardwalk with a pretty girl, and I was like, oh, like I did it. That image I held firmly in my head, like
it's always a surprise too. It's always a surprise. You never really realize it when you're just living your life. Mm-hmm. It's like I didn't remember what under 230 felt like. I never thought that I was ever going to get to be under 230 again with the way that things were going. I never thought that was a fucking possibility. And now I'm like, oh, I can get to 215 no problem, and then I can reassess what I'm going to do from there. Maybe I want to be 6'1", 199 pounds, and just lean and fucking like that's still a big dude. Like to me, like the 230 versus like normal people look at guys like us and they're like, holy fuck, these guys are sizable human beings. This dude is the size of a fucking NFL running back, or this dude's whatever, right? And like to me, 199 pounds is like fucking skin and bones. I might as well be 135 because that's what it's kind of feels like, because I haven't been on 199 pounds since 9th grade. So it's like reframing that too. Like you have to reframe that like for yourself, because I could very well be 199 pounds and just fucking fit as shit, or 195 pounds and just be in great.
You look real good at that, because how tall are you? I think you're 2 or 3 inches taller than me, aren't you?
6'2".
6'2". Yeah, you're 3.
6'2".
You've got 3 inches on, or 2-3 inches on me then.
3 inches,
So yeah, because I know. Well, I mean, I'm about at that point now. So I think I'm 87 kilos. What was that, like 189 pounds or something like that? So you'd be at 199. You'd be at about the point I am now. I'm not
and
like
you'd
super
be like
shredded.
181 or 179.
Like I've got like when I carb reload, these will go up to like my neck and like everything will come out. But I've been carb depleted for so long because I just want to get the fat off fast. I don't like to fuck around with this stuff. Like just get it off, and then I'll do a carb reload and be jacked.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
you'll at 199, you'd be about probably where I'm at now. Accounting for the height difference.
Right. And for me, it's not even a matter of getting down to like 9 or 8 or 7% body fat. I don't think that's really, maybe I will because I'm just naturally eat such a fucking strict diet. And it's not, that's such a weird word and concept because it's not even that it's strict for me. Like I like doing it. I like not having to think about food. I really enjoy that. I don't want to sit and fucking daydream about a restaurant. I don't care. Feed me and get me the fuck out of
The
here. I got shit to
the
do.
lean the leaner I get, the less hungry I get, which is really nice
Yeah,
because
I've noticed that too.
and again, guys, like if you're just starting off on these types of topics, like it might sound crazy to you, and I realize I know it's a completely different world, but like once you get to that point, and you will if you stick to
Yeah,
it,
at
then
some
you
point.
realize this, and then you start to understand how the human body works. You're like, oh yeah, like I don't have as much mass on me. Like fat doesn't require as much energy as muscle does, but it does require some energy, and it taxes your system too. It puts a lot of stress on your system, so metabolically, your body does need more calories, and you're carrying more mass. Ideally, that should be lean muscle mass instead of fat mass. But in general, when you're carrying lower mass, then like you don't need a lot of food. I really don't eat a lot. Last night I had a salad. I ordered 5 extra portions of chicken, and they only gave me one because Mexico likes to do stuff like that. So I had to I had to like down some protein isolate to make sure I just at least hit my protein figures for the day. But like I didn't go to bed hungry. I was pissed off because I was really looking forward to that salad, and I might try again tonight and call these guys. I'm like, listen, so let's give them a goddamn protein, but
Right.
but at the end of the day, it's like that's all I had like all day in terms of solid food. I take supplements and stuff. I do the OMAD, but I do take a little bit of protein before the gym because I don't want to go like completely catabolic. Although I'm on TRT and I do HGH, which is human growth hormone, just a maintenance dose, like a dose they give like 12-year-old kids that lack that hormone. And again, that's just for anti-aging stuff more than anything. You can run HGH way up and get some really good results, but there's also a way higher risk factor. Like your organs will start growing and your nose and your ears
So
and your fingers will
I
start
don't
growing.
understand that. Like I kind of grew up in the bodybuilding space, my dad and stuff. But I kind of grew up around those people, and I never like he never had had a conversation. I'm assuming that he was never on anything. I don't fucking know. I don't. He may have been, but I was never privy to any conversation around that stuff. So explain to me the difference, because I know that obviously TRT is just testosterone replacement therapy. That's clearly what that is. But
Yep.
what is the difference between HGH and testosterone from just a basic 5th grade level?
HGH, I mean, it's in the name. It's human growth hormone. So the way I explain it, it just kind of speeds everything up. Just at a metabolic cellular level, it just kind of speeds everything up. So for me, like I noticed better skin, like nicer hair nails, nicer hair, fuller beard. Like testosterone will do that too. But really, it's just kind of like your body has a mechanism to where like your cells at a cellular level, you have a life cycle. It just kind of speeds that up. The way I look at it. So the dose I take is because I want the anti-aging benefits. I want my body to kill the bad cells quickly and regenerate good healthy cells quicker. But for bodybuilding, like they'll take really high doses, and you can usually tell they have that extended gut, like that beer looking gut. Like they have a 6-pack, but the gut is like way out there. And then again, people, if you run higher doses, like crazy high, like bodybuilding doses for prolonged periods of time, kind of like, I forgot what the condition is, but like Tony Robbins, like he has like kind of like a small degree of like gigantism, I think is what it's called. I know there's a medical term for it, but
I don't know what it is.
You can start to get that. And I've seen people here. I can pull it up.
Yeah, let's do
people that take too much HGH. And
well,
see what happens to them. Like it grows your organs and stuff, so you don't want to do that.
I know that I'm getting to a point now, like in my within 10, 15 pounds, right, where I was just talking about where I'm going, because I was big enough, I'm going to have some version of loose skin, and I would like to fill that in with something. And so running a higher dose of TRT, if it's possible, or something like that, wouldn't kill a guy. Maybe a little bit of, like you're talking about, maybe a little cranked up version of HGH that doesn't give you the gut. Because if you're fundamentally healthy, like across the board, and you really just want to put on and maintain some version of muscle mass that you couldn't have, you haven't had. I'm not advocating for it by any means, but I said it to my dad the other day. I was like, I'm kind of jacked, but I'd like to be more jacked. When I lose weight up to that point, Yeah, so that old Ronnie.
Yeah, so
The bubble
that's what
gut.
you get that extended bubble gut.
That's a little bit exacerbated as far as the bubble gut you
I
actually
think
get.
I think he's pushing it out. Yeah.
He is. He's doing some sort of lap pose. But Joe Rogan is a better version of that. Like he's just a smaller,
Yeah.
normal sized person version.
Let's
You can tell
see.
you can tell he does some version of HGH. Yeah, whatever picture that is.
Yeah, so where he is younger here on the side, like this is kind of the look I like to go for. Like, so I run my HGH really low. I run it at 1.2 IU per day, which is way low for bodybuilding benefits. You want to run it at like 2. Some guys run it up to 4. And I've seen guys go like way crazy, but I would never even consider doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not considering.
I don't want my organs growing larger than they should be inside of me. That does not sound like fun. Again, that doesn't fit with my long-term fitness goal of like health and longevity at all.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at is like for me, if it was going to do that, like being somebody that I don't like putting things like that in my body in general. I don't even like to take anything besides magnesium and
I take that. So I mix
shit.
a shot daily. It's 1.2 IU of HGH. I have like a vitamin B complex with collagen in it, so I take that too, and then just top off the syringe. And it's a 5 IU syringe, like little insulin syringe, and you just pop it right in your belly, subcutaneous, right into the skin. Yep. Yeah. That's a good thing about being previously obese. You got a little bit of loose skin down there, so I got like a little kangaroo pouch.
You have to move it around like a fucking crackhead.
No, it's such a small dose that it doesn't give you what's it called, an embolism under the skin.
Yeah, I had to ask.
Yeah, you don't get that. You don't get any bleeding or anything either. Yeah, so a lot of guys get weirded. A lot of guys get weirded out by needles. Which, you know what? Let me clear out some of these comments, and then we can bring up this topic.
That's actually really interesting too.
Twice already. So, women only tolerate a fat man if he is rich. It is better to be fat and rich. Or
women don't like men who are fat, regardless of whether they have money or not.
Yeah, like you'll see women with fat men, but guess what? They cheat on those guys with guys
all the
like
time.
Me.
Yeah,
like I said, again, your game always gets ahead of you. There's a point where I was like, oh, this girl's really hot. Like, shit, she's super into me. Like, wow, she's like really into me sexually. Like, this is fantastic. And then sometimes, it happens. You start to like a girl. We're human. And then at one point, usually it's like, hey, I want to take you out to lunch and I'll pay for it. Which in Latin cultures, like the guy always pays for everything. That's like I love in red pill spaces. There's always a debate on these topics. Like, if you're a guy, you just pay for everything. Like what the hell kind of girls are you hanging out with? You're not hanging out with.
We couldn't talk about that for 3 hours if we wanted to. We couldn't.
Oh yeah, we could do a stream on that. But
I would prefer not. I would prefer we didn't.
Yeah,
because we don't need to.
I won't take into 3 hours, but and then usually it's like, hey, I got to tell you something. Like, oh no, like you're like you're going through divorce, you have kids, like there's something weird going on with you, some kind of like, oh no, like I'm gonna get some bad news. And it happened. It hasn't happened to me a while because I know how to screen for them better now. But again, your game always gets ahead of you where it's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm married, or oh, I have a boyfriend. I really like you, but he can't find out. And she's like, oh, God, oh, damn it. Like, oh, I really like you.
I can't hang out with you. Fuck.
But yeah, like you'll see those guys and you'll see the girl around them maybe in public, but like she's not excited by that guy. Let's just say that. And for me, that's one of my goals, my dating goals. I'll get weirdos in the comments like, oh, Jaron lives in Mexico, we must pay for these chicks. I'm like, you must not know how I work then, because I literally can't get aroused unless the girl's into me. So even if I wanted to, that would not work for me because I'm at such a different level in terms of going back to like the exchange of energy or whatever in the act of intimacy. Like, just wouldn't work for me. So you'll notice like, and again, like the fitter you get and like the more kind of in tune with yourself you get in every area of your life, that women not only do they want to screw you, like I could still get laid when I was out of shape, but like now they're like really, really, really into you. And that's kind of what I require. Whereas like with the fat guy, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'll tolerate him. Like, well, do you really want a girl that just kind of tolerates you? Or do you want a girl who's like, oh my God, like this guy's the shit. Like this guy's hot. He's smart. He's got good money. He's got shit going. Like he's got a level head on his shoulders. Like you want to be the full package ideally. And when you get to that point, like you don't have to worry about your girl cheating on you or leaving you or whatever. And if she does, there's a girl I've seen for a couple of weeks. Like she wasn't a rotation girl or like a main girl or anything, but like she was super hot. She's an actress here. And I was really into her. And then she flaked on me. I was like, what the hell? This girl's never flaked on me before. Like, what the hell's going on here? And I saw it on her Instagram. Like she went out with like a famous actor, like big, fat, doofy, gross looking guy. I'm like, well, I can't compete with that. And sure enough, she's hitting me up again. And like, I kind of put her on blast, like, hey, what the fuck? Like, I'm not going to make plans. Like, guys, if you watch like my dating video topics, you'll see this. But like, hey, if a girl flakes on plans, then I change the color code in the phone to like I'm using my phone as a camera. Normally I show it, but
like a yellow for a second.
yeah, like a yellow caution sign next to her contact. I'm like, hey, like I can't make plans with you because you flake and you fall through. And my line for these types of girls is, hey, let me know when you're free in the moment, and if I'm free too, you can come over, and that's it.
Yeah,
like
no, I understand that completely.
Like I'm not blocking out time in my schedule for you. But
there's guys who simp for that shit though all day.
But I couldn't be pissed. Like I understand. Like I saw her post the story, and like I recognize the guy. He's famous as shit down here. I'm like, oh well, I'm not at that guy's level in terms of status and fame and recognition and probably even finances too. Although a lot of people down here, even famous people, don't make a lot of money.
Darn.
Yeah, but I'm just like, oh, I'm just the guy she thinks. I'm just the guy she wants to fuck. Like, all right, you know.
Oops, that's
and then you just have to recategorize her in your head. Like, oh, she's not plate status, she's not MLTR status, she's not long-term material status, but she's hot, and you know, she's not getting what she wants in that department, if at all, from that guy. Like a lot of fat guys end up in sexual relationships because I remember when I was fat, like things kind of physically don't work as well as someone who's fit. Let's just say that. So good cardio converts to long time stroking in bed with Z women. Yes, absolutely true. So many men are taking fat slobs, stay inside gaming, not out in the field. Plenty of opportunity out there for a man on his purpose with women. Yeah, there's no competition, guys. And I do get people in the comments like, oh, it's just because you're a white guy who lives in Mexico. It's like, well, I still put a lot of points on the board in the US, and they're not gross schlubs or anything. The way I summarize it is that in the US, it takes a lot more initial investment for less of a return. But like, I still do well in the US. I mean, women, they're kind of the same everywhere. They're just not as culturally and kind of mentally
retarded,
corrupted, brainwashed. Yeah, in other cultures.
I'll just say retarded.
Yeah.
I'm aiming for the Rumble audience.
I mean, which, dude, yeah, this whole wokeism bullshit, like retarded, like that's not a bad word. If you call a mentally handicapped person that, then yeah, you're probably a douchebag. But again, language is important. There's a reason these people try to change language. Retarded literally means regressed. It means going backwards. That's all that means. So again, like guys, if you take offense by the word retarded, then guess what?
You're retarded.
Like, yeah. Duh. Can we fucking grow up here? Can we start being adults? Jesus Christ. I don't have a lot of like passion points. I'm usually pretty even keel, but when people try to manipulate language, I'm like, no, there is a reason the way it is. Like, use the correct words to describe what it is you were trying to communicate or what it is you're thinking. Retarded is not a bad word. And if you take offense to this, that means that in your head, you think you should ascribe that word to someone who's like mentally handicapped.
Yeah, that just makes you an asshole, bro.
Oh, dude, it's like, I love this one too. Like, oh, you shouldn't call that person a midget or a dwarf. Call them a little person. Like, oh, so you're not a full size person. You're less than a person. How is that any better? Who's the committee who sat around and voted on this? It's ridiculous. It's retarded.
God. Yeah, it's retarded.
Jesus Christ!
All the puns intended.
Out there.
That's fucking funny. Oh
so
man.
So the topic I wanted to segue into, and I know that you were into
retarded.
This. Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, although you know what, I'll get your take first before I say this. But I'm going to lead with this. Like the people that followed this guy and really, really thought he was natural, you're probably retarded. I'm talking about guys like the Liver King. And after that whole, there's always been a thing. Like I have younger cousins and younger fans too that'll reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, you know, are you natty?" I'm like, no, I'm pretty clear about it. I'm on TRT within physiological range, and then I take an HGH daily dose at like a 12-year-old kid who's deficiency range for just like general health purposes. I'm very upfront about that. And then if I want to like be like magazine cover ready, which I've never shot for a magazine, but I've got a lot of people that are in like the photography or cinematography, whatever industry. And then guys, when you date hot chicks, a lot of them are models and actresses. And when you go to events, people want to take pictures of you. So when you get fit, that's also benefit number 1023 of many of them. But you get to the point where, like for like that, like 3D, like muscle popping look, I'll take a small dose of Anavar. I'll do like 30 milligrams a day, every 8 hours, do a 10 milligram dose. And then that's a female bodybuilding dose, which means it's so low that like it doesn't make their clit grow large or like them grow facial hair or like it doesn't elongate their vocal cords. So for me, like it's all a risk versus reward
that's an oral,
assessment.
right?
It's an oral steroid too, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the milder ones, and it gives you a lot of bang. You don't need a lot. It gives you a lot of bang for your buck. I have taken it as high as 100 milligrams before. I'd say anything over 60 milligrams for me is kind of diminishing returns. I don't ever need to go over 60 milligrams again, but I'll do 30 milligrams, and really that's just to prevent catabolism and then maintain strength when you're getting in like the dog days of the dieting or the cutting. Back in the day, I used to do like ephedrine for that, but that's kind of like, it kind of screws with your central nervous system and your sleep a bit. My most popular video on my channel is the first one I ever did about how to effectively use ephedrine, an entire comprehensive guide on like all the dosing protocols and what you're going to experience with each one. So I have done that before, but I'm usually full disclosure about what it is I do. And I don't know why so many fitness models lie about that. Like you'll see guys that are in way better shape and be like, yeah, bro, I'm all natty. I'm like, no, you're not. I can look at your stature and tell you're not. You don't have broad shoulders. You don't have big meaty quads. You don't have like a wide hip. You don't have a wide back. Like I have all that stuff naturally. So when I'm enhanced, obviously it helps it out. But a lot of people, and then a lot of young guys get misled. They're like, oh, is that guy natty? I'm like, dude, like look at him. He's not natural.
Clearly.
So for me, like, so I wanted to touch on that topic because people ask me that all the time. Personally, like, again, that's one of those things like the no fap thing where people create a religion out of like, no, dude, I'm all natty. I'm like, well, I mean, you're alive in the 21st century, so you're not like at all.
Right.
I mean, most like look at like the best bodybuilders in the late 1800s. They look about how you and I look right now. It's like, whoa, that guy's so strong, like eating all these eggs and like eating bull testicles and shit like that. Like, technology has come along quite a bit. Like we know things that we didn't know before in the natural world. So it depends on how you want to define that. But
Sure.
but for me, like I don't get caught up in the debate. I really don't care. You can make up your own judgment, but I stay within physiological ranges for everything. I will do a small like female dose of Anavar to like really take things to like just to kind of polish everything up, before like a photo shoot or a wedding or something like that. But so I wouldn't call myself natural, but I wouldn't say like I don't take like bodybuilding steroid cycles either. So I usually just say I'm enhanced or I'm optimized, and that's usually the goal for me. But I know a lot of guys get bent out of shape for that. Like, oh yeah, bro, I'm all natty. I'm like, well, dude, I've seen your supplement stack. I've seen all the creatine, BCAAs you take, all the L-arginine, like all the stuff you take. And they're like, oh, I don't want to damage my system. Like all that shit has to go through your kidneys. So all that stuff you're taking and you're spending $300 a month on supplements. I've had friends, personal friends, where we've broken this down. Like, all right, like get your bloods done. Like let's look at some of these levels. Like, okay, so you're natural, but you're taking all these supplements that are murdering your organs, or you can just inject TRT, stay within physiological ranges, and kind of ease up on the liver and kidneys a bit. Anavar is slightly hepatotoxic, but it's so low that if you take like a milk thistle supplement, then that it's largely negligible and you just don't drink on it. But but I'm curious on your take on like the natty versus whatever the alternative is. But a lot of guys ask me about that, and the reason I brought that up twice during the show because someone asked me recently, and a lot of young guys are especially confused about that.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people I don't think there's a lot of people out there that are actually natty in general. I don't think there's a lot of them. I mean, at the end of the day, like we're talking
in
about
the
like
third world and they're malnourished.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're talking about true steak and eggs diet, fucking Arnold style, way like before he was going to actually be a bodybuilder type of like guys who weightlift. Like you see those guys, but a lot of people, I mean, just a lot of people in general are on TRT or some version of that. So it's getting to a point where like natty is more rarer than somebody who's on testosterone. And I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't care one way or the other. I think that if we'll go back to Liver King specifically because I can speak on that because I've studied the guy, or it is at least his ideal whatever for a while. But for somebody like him to lie to people and then them get mad about it, they're only mad because they fell for it.
It was pretty obvious. He has the extended HGH gut. He's definitely on HGH, and he's taken more than 4 IUs daily.
The fucking delts, the trap separation, the fucking
do your damn research.
All of
like
it. It was just crazy.
just HGH
He's show
no
ready
HGH.
every fucking day. What are we talking about here? Like, if I came down to your apartment and I looked like that at 6'3", I'd be or 6'2", I would be 240 fucking pounds.
Well,
Jack,
and
you'd be like,
if you
bro,
told me
lay
like, bro,
off.
I'm only eating steak and eggs, and you look like that. Well, I do the steak and eggs diet for at least 30 days, usually the month of October, just to kind of take a little weight off before heading in the holiday season, because I'm going to put it back on with
Yeah.
mom and grandma's cooking. Like I do splurge a bit, during certain points of the year, but after 30 days of steak and eggs, guys, if you've never done that, and you're strict and you don't do any carbs at all during that period, your muscles are deflated. You're not that strong. You don't have those popping, bulging muscles. I'm kind of deflated right now.
Yeah, you're pretty
maybe
flat. You get pretty flat pretty fast.
I do. Yeah, I'm like skinny
Well,
fat
not
right
you.
now.
I'm talking about people in general.
Yeah, in general. Yeah, but like
commenting on your flat delts.
no, I'm completely transparent about it.
Oh, mine
Like,
are flat because I
yeah.
eat steak and just mostly steak and egg. Yeah.
You get flat, but you also get really lean too. And like when I wear
yeah.
nice clothes, I still have the V taper. I still have like the fit shape. I'm just not like bulging in muscles, but I want to dress better. I like to fit nicer clothes. Rolling out to Miami in like a white linen suit, that was pretty fun. Fat people can actually, no, you see fat people that dress like that, but they don't look good. They look sloppy. And
they do. And
what's that lipstick on a pig saying? Like, it's kind of like that. You're like, all right, dude, like I dig your threads, but like, or people that get really into fashion, like, dude, like how do I look more fashionable? Is like get in shape. Like the best thing you can do is just have a nice body, and then whatever you put on top of it looks good. Although it might be TMI, but like when I look in the mirror, I was like, I look a lot better naked than I do fully clothed. I'm like, because like you're never gonna have a perfect fit,
Well, like look at the carb difference, right? I'm just gonna. I sent you this picture, but I'm gonna put it on the screen clearly. But remember that picture I sent you, where the one on the left is my no carbs, and the one on the right is with me with carbs, a leaner look. How fucking weird is that? How weird is it that I looked like I was a pound heavier and I looked 5 pounds leaner? Yeah, like, tell me what the fuck is going on with that shit? Because I looked for that moment, because I still got some body fat and shit to lose, but I'm like taking some crazy weird shape right now, and it's all because I ate rice and fucking 2 cups of oatmeal or 3 cups of oatmeal the day before.
I hold water a lot, and that's subcutaneous, but that's that's an effect like carbs and sodium and all that stuff, which I don't get too much into that. Anymore.
I don't get into weights with sodium when I'm on the carnivore diet. I just eat a shitload of salt.
Yeah, when you're low carb or no carb or a carnivore diet, you do need your sodium.
Salt, magnesium, glycinate.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Potassium.
Sipping on beef bouillon.
Yeah, I don't do. I have
Redmond.
Well, I have Redmond real salt that I put in my water with like a Crystal Light packet, and then I take magnesium glycinate, 350 milligrams, and then I take 15 milligrams of zinc, chelated zinc, and Tonkat Ali, and some N-acetylcysteine for the antioxidant properties in that, the glutathione regulation and shit. So your combo.
Yeah,
I like how we're like showing our stacks, and mine's all fucking natural as shit.
Well, I mean, most people aren't honest about this stuff. So, like, I take this. Mexico's great because you can get all this shit over the counter. But yeah, that's all the other, But whatever that list whatever that list of ingredients is. So it looks like it's got
that list of ingredients is.
Yeah, it's just got a bunch of vitamins, and stuff. And then I do it too. That this one has collagen in it, so collagen's nice for your skin, cartilage.
That's the B12 stack you're talking about. That you
let me put it back in the fridge because otherwise I'll forget about it and ruin it.
Oh yeah, that's the HGH B12 combination, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's just a vitamin combination. This is HGH. So
that's what I meant to say was that's the stuff you
there's
put
different
in
types.
that's the
stuff. I'm doing the gentropin now. There's like gentropin, somatropin. I always just ask the pharmacist here, like, hey, what's the best one? Like what's the best one on the Mexican market right now? And then whatever they recommend me, I just get that. So
fair enough. Whatever works, though. I mean, if it's actually helping in the longevity regard, like that's a huge thing. I mean, I would heavily consider injectables every morning if something was, even like not even a muscular thing. It's not even about vanity. It's about like guys, when you get old, the reason you die, the less muscle mass you have, and there's obviously a balance to this. The less muscle mass you have, the more likely you are to go into a state where your body, as you're dying, eats your organs because you ran out of muscle mass for it to consume. So
My
the
brother was
more
in a
muscle
coma
mass you
and he
have,
was jacked, and it ate all that muscle mass first, and that's why he's alive today, because
otherwise he would have been fucking fried.
yeah, when your body goes to like the dying sequence, it doesn't go for your brain first, your heart first, your lungs. Like there's an order of operations. Yep.
So having muscles is protective of your life. The likelihood that you will live longer is higher when you have more muscle mass, to a point, because there is a point where you have so much muscle mass that it puts pressure on all of your organs. And that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is a healthy and acceptable level of muscle mass that can carry you through into your 90s, 100s, whatever you want to do. That's why, guys, there's dudes out there right now that are 85 years old that are doing the TRT thing. And they're fucking jacked, and they're going to live to 110, 115 fucking years old because they're out there lifting weights at 85 fucking years old while everybody else's grandparents are dying. It's insane. It's crazy to think that there's not even one of 1,000 people at that age range are doing that shit. Think about that. You could be 85. Like, there's dudes out there 85 and jacked. What are we talking about? All because they decided to say, fuck it, I'm going to throw... I'm at dying age anyways. I'm going to throw some fucking TRT in this shit, and I'm going to go hard. And I'm going to see if I can stick around for a while. And now we're seeing people live routinely into their 90s and 100s. It's crazy. Like, did you notice that? There's a lot more people dying at 98 than there are at 88 anymore.
Well, and then a big thing for me is quality of life. So like
everything's better jacked. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm going to age like this.
Everything is better jacked.
Do you want to be a 70-year-old, barely being able to walk around, like falls over, breaks his hip because he's never done any weight bearing exercises? Or do you want to look like someone like, Sly Stallone?
Yeah, dude. I mean, come on.
There's two ways about it. Like, how do you want to, and I think in terms
that's
of
a very good point. Yeah.
How do I want to live like an old man? Like we know how to do it. We have the technology. We understand how the human body works. So again, you'll get people like, oh, well, I want to be natural the rest of my life. I'm like, you want to live a naturally shitty life? Like you're not a very smart person then. That makes zero sense.
Yeah, it's that, I'd say that's that old saying, but your ego is going to kill you at the end of the day. It's not even about that. It's like, look, Sylvester Stallone's a perfect example. This is a great way to wind down this podcast too. It's like Sylvester Stallone's a perfect example of get jacked, be good looking, live into your old age, make a bunch of money, do all that stuff. Because I mean, look at the man. I would assume that he's going to live until he's at least 85 to 90, if not longer.
And he's going to live well.
And he's going to, oh yeah. I mean, yeah, he's going to live extremely well. But for like a 70-year-old dude, there's a 70-year-old dude out there that's out gaming you right now.
And male or female, the best thing you can do for longevity and higher quality of life is routine resistance training. Doesn't matter what your goals are. Like at any point, going back to like my brother's accident, physical therapy, like how do you bring someone back, after a coma? Like he couldn't even like barely move his hand. And then he ran a 100-mile marathon within the next year. Well, how do you do that? What does that process look like? That's resistance training. You have to rebuild those neurological connections too. But you have to apply a stimulus that's more than what the body's accustomed to, and then it goes into a hypercompensatory effect or hypercompensation to where it puts on just a little bit more from like, basic scientific approach. But if you do that, if you've done that for years, like I started lifting and getting in shape when I was 17. So at 77, I don't plan on not doing it anytime soon. At 77, I'm going to be in better shape than other 77-year-olds. I just turned 36 the other day. And most 36-year-olds my age, like when I go back to my hometown, I'm like, oh my God, you guys look like shit. They look terrible. Like how do you do that to yourself?
Dude, people think the zombie apocalypse hasn't happened already? Go outside.
Oh, dude.
Look around, bro. Like, what are we talking about? We're fighting. We're over here fighting over fucking whether the vegan or carnivore diet's better. We all know which one's better. We don't even have to talk about it. We're all fighting over politics. None of us are politicians. We're all fighting over race. None of us care what color each other are. At the end of the day, we're fucking distracted, and it's bullshit. Like we're fighting over the dumbest shit when really walk outside. You don't think it's a zombie apocalypse? Walk into a fucking Walmart right now and tell me that there's one person that knows that they're in Walmart and actually shopping for some shit. And like ask them what they're
The
shopping
airplane.
for.
I always get upgraded if there's a seat available. Like, oh, can we put you in the emergency row? And I look around the flight. I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm the only
you're
one here
probably
that's
the only
physically
person
capable of
Yeah,
helping people out of this
exactly.
goddamn thing.
Yeah, half the people are limping, the other half are coughing. Most of them are sloppy. Like, and I was one of these people recently, so it's like, holy shit. Justin, what's his fucking name? There's a dude. He's one of Andrew Tate's friends, the redhead. I forget what his last name is. Justin
Oh, Justin Waller, Jay Waller,
Waller. I almost said Walker. He said
Texas Ranger.
he's so happy there's average people out there because he looks at some of these dudes and they look like fucking movie stars under 100 pounds of bullshit. He's like, dude, you make the game way easier for me for being a fucking fat, sloppy piece of shit. And I'm like, dude, that's a really good point. I need to get in
That's how I
shape
look
right
at it.
now. Yeah, but it's like that level of like conviction towards that. Like, I was just looking around and seeing people. And like sometimes you get into a situation where sometimes you get into a situation where you are in a room with people that you have no business being in a room with. Walk into any casino in America, you're standing in a room where you don't have any business being in that room. I don't have any business being in that room, but I frequently ran into that room, and I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But it's like get into the right room with the right people. Like some of these people don't even exist. Like the reality is they're walking zombies around in the world and doing these jobs and doing these and paying their rent and just doing whatever the fuck. They're not going to contribute in any way, any significant way. They're there to service you at the end of the day. That's reality.
And a lot of times when you start hanging out with these, like with other fit type people, you'll realize like, oh, they're still kind of trapped in the matrix. They're still doing the 9-to-5 job. They still have this like bullshit. Like, yeah, they're jacked and they look good physically, but like they still have other stuff they haven't worked on. And a lot of them don't have game, which was remarkable. I always thought like, okay, if I get jacked, like girls all of a sudden want me. Like, yeah, it makes it easier. They're more attracted to you initially, but if you open your mouth and don't know what the hell you're doing, then
you're
like, you're gonna kill
retarded.
that lead pretty quickly. Yeah.
If you're retarded, it's not gonna work out regardless of how good you look, right?
If you're retarded, yeah.
Retarded.
Pig Latin
The
here.
proper use of that fucking term, Jesus.
Everyone's first, second language, Pig Latin.
Absolutely.
I don't even know. Yeah, do kids still speak that? I don't know.
Pig Latin.
Yeah, here we can tie it up on this. So, in your opinion, what's the best way to measure your lean mass? I've actually done a video on this or videos in the past. Look at my Fat to Flip playlist. But in the short term, and I can put up on the screen real quick, or just for like the shorter answer, which my answers are never short or as short as they seem when I start spitting them out. But I think it depends on whatever you have available to you. The thing you want to focus most on is consistent measuring. So like the scale thing. Like if you weigh yourself in the morning one day and then you weigh yourself the next day after a big dinner and then you weigh yourself midday, then your results are going to be a bit off. So you want to make sure that you're as consistent as possible in whatever measurement approach you take. For me, and again, nothing's perfect out there, but for me, I like DEXA scans. The reason being is they give you a ton of metadata, and I can throw that up on the screen real quick. If you don't have that available, they're usually in most major cities they have it available. Sometimes even at like hospitals, you can go and ask them. I've never done that. Like I've always lived in cities where like there's some kind of like center, like health center, where they have that, and you can just pay some cash out of pocket and do it. But the reason being is, let me make sure there's no personal private information on there. Yeah, let me change this view, and then I'll put mine up there. Fucking power surging. Like the lights are flicking on and off, but I've got a backup battery in this computer, so I shall be okay. Yeah, let me share this real quick. And again, in my Fat to Fit playlist, I've got a DEXA scan video where I like really go into this, but I'll just give you like a high level overview right now, real quick.
I've never taken one of those, and I'm pretty sure that to get to my optimal level or my optimal place as far as goals and like understanding where I'm actually at, I'm probably gonna have to do one. I know they're like $100 or $150 or whatever.
Yeah, this will in packages, and then usually I get. So, yeah, can we see this? Damn it, it's never. Here, let me zoom in so you guys can actually see it. Oops.
I didn't realize this. I got a coupon for a cryo session.
It doesn't matter. It just has my birthday on here. I thought I had my phone number or something. So the reason I like it, again, you want to have the same measurement criteria. So if I do, this is when I first went to get my 6-pack. Like I said, I was around 15%. I'm like, oh my God, I can never do that. Well, I can see right here with DEXA scan exactly I could. So I was already a bit into the cut, so it's probably likely like 18% when I started here. I ended the cut like April 1st is usually when I like to be cut. So I was actually a lot leaner than when I did this DEXA scan. But at this DEXA scan, it shows like 9.7% total body fat. That's where I was the second time I took this. About a couple weeks into the cut, 15.1%. So this is what it gives it down to, and it breaks this stuff down: total mass, fat tissue, lean tissue. So lean tissue is what you're asking about. BMC is your bone mineral content. So no, not too much change there. And you'll see that actually as I lost weight, my bone mineral content increased because, that requires a healthier diet and all that stuff. And you're also not putting as much stress on your system. When you have less mass to carry around, well, your bones might get a little stronger. Lean tissue is a big one. So on any cut, you're going to lose some weight. So some lean tissue. I only lost 2 pounds according to this, which isn't bad. So 2 pounds of lean muscle mass to 13 pounds of fat loss. That's not too bad. When I used to do the bulk and cut cycles, and I'm sure like guys comment if you've been in this situation where you do a bulk cycle and you put on 1 pound of body fat or more per pound of muscle, and then you cut and you lose like a pound of muscle per pound of body fat. I've never had it that bad, but congratulations. You've effectively spent a whole year training hard and eating, and you're back where you started. So DEXA scan for me
is such a fucking huge deal. That's why,
yeah,
if you're going to work out anyway, it's just like 200 calorie surplus or whatever, throw in a couple of light cardio sessions a week and fuck a little bit. You're golden, and you can still put muscle on and maintain the same amount of body fat.
Yeah, exactly that. So, and the reason I like this DEXA scan is it gives you a lot of data, and with data, you can do more stuff with it. I also appreciate this. It's like I mentioned earlier, like, Android is like midsection. So I've never had a big belly or midsection. Gynoid, and this, if you know from Greek, it's like gynecologist. That's more like female related. So a gynoidal fat distribution pattern indicates that you have higher estrogen, which I was obese as a kid. I think it did stunt my growth a bit. I had like a delayed puberty. Once I got the weight off, boom, like immediately I was able to put on muscle mass like pretty quickly. So that's why I always tell guys, and they're like, oh, should I bulk or cut first? So like if you're really overweight, go ahead and cut first, because hormonally you're also off. Like you're carrying a lot of estrogen around.
That's
and
so
like,
fucking true, dude.
You're not gonna have a good bulk if you're highly estrogenic. And these numbers will tell you that between gynoidal and androidal fat distribution patterns. My arms are always way leaner than the rest of my body. So my trunk, like if I get below 10%, I have a 6-pack. My legs carry a bit more mass on them. I've always had meaty legs, probably always will. But it breaks this down, and then there's another area, I think, I'm not sure if it was this company or another one. Yeah, there we go. So body fat distribution. Android fat is concentrated in the lower abdominal region. Gynoid fat is concentrated in hips, upper thighs, and buttocks. So, yep, I had a female fat distribution pattern. That goes back to, I think, being a kid and just not being on a healthy diet. And I grew up in the 90s, too, where they were really into low-fat diets. Don't ever do a low-fat diet. If you're eating a ton of carbs, then you want to minimize your fat, but you still need some dietary fat. And only the guys that like, oh, I do like 400 grams of carbs and 200 grams of protein a day with no fat. Okay, those guys are enhanced. Those guys are on cycles. So you don't need the fat to naturally create hormones if you are taking exogenous sources of male primary sex hormones. But so I grew up in the 90s, so like a lot of kids ended up with those kind of issues because like, oh, don't eat fat, it's bad for you. Like that's a terrible thing to tell someone. Oh, eat a bunch of slop, like in terms of like highly enriched simple carbs that essentially you give to animals to fatten them up before slaughter. Let's give that to our children for an entire generation. And then we wonder why they fucking whine publicly and vote for Democrats.
Go look at a pig trough and then go look at a bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah, their hormones are fucked up.
Yeah, well, go look at a pig trough and then go look at a bowl of oatmeal. It looks exactly like the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I want to put on weight, then I eat what animals eat, and if I want to be lean, I eat what lean animals eat. It's so weird how the answers for the world are just right in front of your eyes.
Yeah,
if you open them and
it's funny. The lions are not out there eating fucking leaves off of trees, and those dudes are jacked. They're out there fucking walking around with
Yeah,
some
right.
boulder shoulders and fucking. Anyways,
so like I said, I'll cruise this real quick. Another data set that it gives me that I like. So if you're weightlifting for aesthetics, which I was at one point, any muscle imbalances, it'll show you that too. So it'll show you your total mass. Like there's gonna be some discrepancies. So like for example, I played baseball for years. My left triceps are way more defined than my left bicep, but my right bicep has more of like a bicep head or a bulge, but my right triceps not so much. And that's from the motion of like swinging a bat, 500 hacks a day. Your left triceps pulling, your right triceps just kind of dragging, And then I threw and stuff
like
too.
my right
So.
calf is way bigger than my left one just because of pitching baseball.
Yep, exactly that. But for aesthetics, you want these to be as close as possible. So it lets you know if you have any muscle imbalances. You will have some to a very small degree. And there's also a very small degree of margin on DEXA scan. However, in my opinion, of all the measurement protocols or methodologies you can take, I think DEXA scan is the most accurate. But whatever you choose, you want to make sure that you're consistently measuring the same data points, because then you can do cool things like put them in spreadsheets like I showed you guys earlier and start to track this stuff. Also for, I don't think this company did it, or maybe it's a different report, but a lot of these companies, they have like the bod pod or like the Fit 3D where it tells you all the measurements of your body too. So for aesthetics, you want to do a V taper, or you want to do the golden ratio, like the classic bodybuilder type physiques, and then plug all that in, and you can take this. I'll have to find it and do it in a different video, but I plugged all this information in, put it into another spreadsheet, and it let me know how I had to train to achieve my golden ratio, which again, unless you're like a genetically gifted Greek god or something, like most people aren't naturally there, but you should be able to naturally get pretty damn close to that. And guess what? All genetics are is a bunch of code and programming that lives in every cell in your body. So when you give your body the right things it needs, it's called epigeneticism or epigenetics. Your genes start to express themselves the way they were programmed. You were not programmed to be a big fat ass. You were not programmed to be some dumpy, slobby, fat fuck sitting around drinking beer, jacking off to porn, and playing video games all day. Now, if you provide that stimuli to your body, well, it's gonna those genes or that programming within your cells, it's going to express itself and you're going to look that way. But I love when people are like, oh yeah, no, it's my genetics. I'm like, show me a picture of your granddad in his World War II uniform. Was he some big fat ass? No, he was lean and mean. So shut up. You're lying. That's an excuse. That's what addicts do. You are an addict to food and you need to fix that shit. But this information helps you. It depends on how granular and how detailed you want to get. But like I said, I'm a dork. I'm not a dork. I'm a nerd. We discussed this, but for me, like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. Like why would I want to fuck around and flounder and not get optimized results? That makes zero sense.
I'll go get one within just because I've gotten down like enough where this could get fun. I'll go get one in the next 30 days. How's that? And then we'll compare notes. Yeah,
let's do it. And you'll see, and it also lets you know kind of where you're at. So like arms, again, my arms are always leaner, so. But when my arms are like it's 7.4% body fat, well, I've got veins running all over them. I've got some really cool definition. Trunk, same thing here. Like, okay, I was kind of blobby looking at 15.3 pounds, but I take 7.5 little more pounds off just my midsection. Well, that's what six packs are made of. 8.4% in my 8.4% body fat around my waistline. Well, I have a six pack. Anything over 10, it depends on the person, but usually you want to be under 10% body fat in that region for a six pack to show. But this tells you all that stuff. There's another one. Every company's a bit different. We talked about this on the generals meeting on Saturday. Visceral fat. That's the one you want to look out for. So luckily, I don't have a lot of visceral fat. Visceral fat's brown fat. That's the fat that's around your organs. If you get that number and it's high, that means you are going to die early. You don't want to do that. You want to fix your visceral fat. Did this company not do it? No. Okay, cool. But yeah, you guys can get an idea. I've done videos before. I can do another one where I pull out the spread. You know what? No, fuck that. Watch the video I already have, and I'm going to turn this into a course, and then I'll give you the worksheets and all that stuff for guys who are actually serious about fitness and aren't just jacking off, watching this stuff thinking, well, I could never do that, or oh, it's my genetics. Nope, those are lies you're telling yourself. And then this one too, or calculating fat loss. I always recommend get your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, your RMR, which is your resting metabolic rate. And some of these give you your TDEE, or I probably have it from this company, but in a different report because they have different like measurement machines or, you know, whatever. But TDEE is your total daily expenditure of energy. And those are the numbers you want to plan your diet around. And again, I've done this on previous videos, but you know what? I'm on a course building kick, so I'll turn it into a course too. And by that time, I should be nice and jacked for the summer, so I can do some professional photos for marketing purposes. But for me, that's personally why I prefer a DEXA scan. If you have any more questions on that, again, check out the Fat to Fit playlist on my channel, or hit me up Instagram at Jaron Scott. And we can definitely go through that. If you're not already in the top 10%, anyone watching, well, go ahead and join that group. We do get into this stuff. I do occasionally do workshops, and like I said, like we're on a 3-hour stream here on just that topic alone on what you can do with DEXA scan data. It depends on how much context you want.
How far do you want to get in the weeds?
Yeah. I can talk on that 10, 12 hours to really give you everything, but in a 3-hour video, I could probably break that down.
I'd be sitting here taking notes because I don't know shit about it. That's why I said I'll go do one to see where I'm at, because I think that would be ideal at this point.
I have to go through all my old notes and, you know, dust that off. Because like DEXA scan, like I said, I measure anything. Like if I'm going to or drastically change my diet or training protocol or fitness regimen or anything lifestyle wise, well, I measure. Like here's where I'm at now. Here's where I want to be. And then you see, you kind of put a plan in place, and then you take checkpoints along the way, like quantifiable, measurable checkpoints. And then you adjust your methodology. And then you get to the end, you're like, oh, I'm exactly where I wanted to be. But it's a lot easier when you know what the hell is going on, rather than a lot of guys, they just kind of go at it in the dark. Like, no, no, I can't lose weight. I'm like, what, are you tracking it? Like, how many calories are you taking every day? What do you need? What do you expend energy wise daily? Oh, I don't know. Like, well, is it any wonder that you're not losing weight?
Yeah. So to defend that just slightly, that's part of the reason why I tell people, you know, it's very, very simple. You just have to understand what it is. And it's not hard to understand. You just have to open your fucking eyes. Like,
once you understand how your body works, then you have a mental framework.
Take a fucking meal out. Start by taking a meal out. Lose 10 pounds. And then read an article. Like one fucking article. It's not complicated. Read one article about how to lose weight and how to measure your macros or whatever the fuck. Figure out what your BMR is. There's calculators for this shit. Like, we don't even need to sit here and say it. There's a million layers of information before we even get there. Like, you should have read 50 articles before you even got to this fucking thing. If you really wanted to lose weight, you would. That's the point. At the end of the day, if you really want to lose it, you're going to lose it. Like, nobody who puts real effort into anything ever doesn't get the result they're looking for.
That's a great point. Yeah, it really depends on how bad you want it. So anything else you want to touch on? I think we're just over the 3-hour mark. So
I am happy as a fucking pig in shit right now.
All righty. Well, we can go ahead and wrap.
You muted.
Yeah, I had some snot. I don't like to snortle into the microphone. Yeah, exactly. Hey guys. So guys, like I said, we're just kind of like these conversations, like questions like natty versus optimized. That's a whole 3-hour stream. Oh, how do I get on TRT? Optimized. That's natty multiple. Yeah, that's multiple hours of information. So it depends on how granular you want to get, how far along you want to get in your journey. If you're just scratching the surface, like tip of the iceberg, that's what these live streams are for. If you want to really get into the details and actually get the results you're looking for, and want to join a group of guys that are looking to do exactly the same as you, so you're not a pariah. Because guess what? When you're like, all right, I'm going to get really fit, or I'm going to get my finances together, I'm going to be location independent, and then you go to work and you try to share this with like normal people, normies, they're going to look at you like a deer in headlights. So if you want a group of guys that are like actually kind of on the same grind, and they're looking to optimize themselves in every area of love and life by building lives worth living and loving, well, you got to pony up some cash, take it to the next level. That is the top 10% group. That is a group that I manage with a couple buddies of mine, and then Rich Cooper. It's an extension of his Entrepreneurs and Cars brand. So a lot of good guys in there. We've had some really great guys joining recently. I'd say the value of that group is the frequent calls we do, and then the value of the network of other guys. Like, for example, we've had a couple of guys recently that have joined. They're like, oh yeah, I make multiple millions of dollars a year, but like, my wife won't give me a BJ, or I'm overweight, or I'm drinking too much, or I'm smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So like you get guys that are at different levels in different areas of their life. And the idea is to be optimized in every area of your life. So this is the group to do that. I'm one of the admins of the group. Since I'm doing this full time now, then I am in there at least every day. So I write very comprehensive posts. I will interact with you. I will engage you. You will get myself and other admins on the calls, and they all offer areas of expertise in different areas of life. So maybe the way I approach things doesn't resonate with you, but guess what? Someone in that group is going to have an approach that works exactly for your situation. So for me, like the concept was kind of foreign when I first started joining these types of groups. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to spend all this money and get in the group. But immediately I got taken to the next level in different areas of my life that I was focused on. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely hit me up on Instagram at Jaron Scott. To join the top 10% men's group, that is $9.97 lifetime membership pricing. You get 20% discount on all of the coaching offers between myself and Rich, and premium products and all that stuff. And then at any point, if you want to join any of Rich's other groups, then we can take that $9.97. We'll forward that to the price of entry to his like entrepreneur groups or the top 1% or what have you. So definitely a lot of value there. Be sure to get in there. If you need any information, hit me up. Instagram at Jaron Scott. I will give you more information. If you have any questions about it, or if you're ready to go, down in the description, boom, it should be like the first link on there. It'll take you to the PayPal paywall. You can go ahead and get into it. I'll get a notification. I'll bring you right in immediately. Well, once I get the notification, usually it's within a couple minutes, I'll bring you in. I'll introduce you to everyone, and we'll get you all set up. And also, guys ask me every now and then if there's financing options. We don't have an official financing option, but PayPal does offer PayPal credit. So go through there, go to checkout, and there should be like a bullet, like a radio button for web speak that you can select there. And then usually, if it's under the $1,000 credit limit, then usually they'll just approve you instantly. So that's an option for guys that, it's usually younger guys, like, hey, I don't have $1,000 in cash right now. That's completely fine. PayPal can take care of that for you. But that being said, Steve, I already know the answer. Do you have anything else to add?
Never.
Nope. Deuces.
Never again. I got to keep it all for next time. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of shit to talk about.
Yeah, right. So that being said, guys, if you've made it 3 hours and 10 minutes in and you still haven't liked the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and enable all notifications for my channel, because otherwise you're just not going to know when we're going live, because YouTube doesn't seem to like me too terribly much amongst other people. And share with your friends if you get any value out of it. If you want to continue the conversation, be sure to do so in the comments down below. Let's see. Spencer Keene just joined the top 10% yesterday. Excited to meet everyone and get involved. Yep, definitely. Yeah, I remember seeing you come in there. I think I spent quite a bit this morning in there too, replying to posts and whatnot. So definitely got a great group of guys in there. Join the band of brothers, the network of guys that are like getting really serious about getting their life together as per their definition. That doesn't mean that you have to like, not some guru or some weird cult leader. A lot of guys in these spaces like, oh, I've got to do exactly what this guy said. Don't do exactly what I say. I have a very specific methodology that works for people like me. If that resonates with you, great. If you're a nerd like me, you're like, oh, Jaron, well, you say to do this diet-wise in this situation. Why? Well, we can dive into the numbers, and I will show you exactly why. It is all quantifiable, it is all measurable, and it is all scientific. I
Absolutely.
am a nerd by nature. That being said, guys, I won't banter on anymore. You've been with me for 3 hours and 10 minutes. I definitely appreciate it. We'd like to thank you all for stopping on by, and until next time, we shall bid you all farewell.